Hello, everyone. Um, how's that for a last minute live stream event? Now, first of all, this is a mic check. So if you're online with me, just give me a 1 to let me know that I'm audible. And yeah, once I know that everyone can hear me loud and clear, we'll get straight in with the content. Brilliant. Thank you, Adam. And welcome, Adam and Hervé. I'm sure I've said your name wrong. Forgive me if I have. Yars Very Real is in the house. How you doing, sir? Yeah, it's a 2024. It says 2004. Yeah, that would help. I think I can edit. I think I can edit that real time. Let's do that. Let's edit that title. Thank you, Yars Very Real. A 2004 recap would be cool. Would be cool. Yeah, I've edited that now, so thank you very much for that. Sky King, what's going on? Pape, thank you everyone who's joined me. This was like the most impromptu, unprepared, well, not unprepared, unscheduled live stream probably that I've ever done. Half an hour ago, I just decided I'd finish off what I started yesterday for the simple fact that we didn't finish. There was too much to get through, not enough time. It was late, and I had some unwelcome content pop up midway. So yeah, there you go. But we're here today, so thank you everyone. And I'm going to ask you to do something that I don't normally ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to hit up the likes, because it's going to probably remain a relatively empty room as no one knows it's taken place. But if we get some likes, it'll get some circulation and we can get some more people in the room. So it's not just well, I mean, I don't mind everyone who's here so far. It's good company I'm in, but the more the merrier, they say. Let's get as many people in as we can. So yeah, do hit up the likes if that's not too much of an effort. We've got just over 20 people in the room at the moment. So yeah, those numbers look quite good. I'm going to be carrying on from where we left off yesterday, just kind of going through my, basically I've got loads of folders and we're only looking at one of them. This is my collage folder. So this is where I get more than one image and I kind of put it into a collage of images. The reason I thought that would be a good folder to review is because I've got too much, I do too many reconstructions and too much research to try and collaborate all of the different things that I do. So I thought, let me just, by the time I bring stuff into the collage folder, that's normally a sign that I'm at a place where I'm happy to present something to someone. So that's why I thought, well, that's probably makes sense. Let me use the collage folder and that will be able to, and I'll be able to take you through my thought processes as I was producing something and what the purpose of its production was for. So I thought, yeah, let me do that instead. So we'll continue our recap. I think we got about halfway through the year in yesterday's live stream. So yeah, we made for good progress and I think we'll complete it today. And fingers crossed. Yeah, that's essentially what we'll do. Okay, so yeah, welcome everyone who's here. It's gone quiet in the chat. Let me know that everyone can hear me okay. Just say hello. And by the way, I kind of put the link in yesterday and no one joined me. You guys just left me here by myself. You are very welcome. Very, very welcome to join in. So yeah, there you go. Sakin says, caught up with your presentation with Robin Walker and co. Brill presentation, supremely easy to follow. We'll be referring to their reconstruction of Tut and the Putin reconstruction from now on. Yeah, thank you. I did, yes. A lot of you, actually, I didn't really advertise the fact that I did an interview with Robin Walker. Well, he did an interview with, well, I did an interview on his platform for which he was present. So I'm not sure exactly how you'd phrase that, but yeah, so it was a presentation. And I essentially just took a small amount of the data from my Tutankhamun research, the documentary that I've got, basically called Was Tutankhamun Black, but really it looks at the cultural and anthropological continuities between Tutankhamun and the modern African populations, and I believe does a very good job at proving, beyond too much doubt, that Tutankhamun was, ethnically aligned with modern African groups. So I took a proportion of the research that I used to create that documentary, and I did an interview on Roman Walker's platform or presentation, I should say. And yeah, and it's quite interesting. It's quite good. It went well. I've developed a really good relationship with him and the guys over there. So I'm sure Robin Walker will be on my channel very soon. I'm sure we'll get him across. And yeah, I think we'll just continue to build that link and build those links. Also, I've got quite an exciting interview on the way. A very exciting. I say quite exciting. That's an understatement. I've got a interview with a geneticist coming up. Well, strictly speaking, she's a genetic counselor, but she's qualified in the field of genetics. I've spoken with her just once, but we spoke at length when I did speak of her, and she is very brilliant, and she's going to be opening a lot of eyes in terms of the field of genetics. So that's going to be happening within the next 2 weeks. I think within the next 10 days, the next week and a half, we'll have that geneticist interview, and that's going to really hopefully be very eye-opening for the community, because you already know that one of my big concerns is how the field of genetics is being misconstrued, misinterpreted, and manipulated in order to basically paint the agendas of people who know that the general public don't know any better. And I think that knowledge gap between what the general public know and what people who've done a little bit of research in the area know, that knowledge gap is so vast that I feel that that's manipulated quite deliberately by people who should know better, and they essentially like to lie. I literally saw one just today, and it nearly made me throw up in my mouth. It was so terrible, talking about the West Eurasian ancestry of Horn Africans, and about how they're 60% West Eurasian, and about how there was a migration from West Eurasia, and that's what birthed the Egyptian civil. And it's just all crap. It's all crap that has zero evidence to support it. Zero evidence. It's just poor misinterpretation of markers, and populations that haven't even been sampled have basically not been sampled, or have been sampled incorrectly. And there's just so much conflation that takes place. Most of it's actually relatively easily disprovable. So if you join me on that live stream, I'm sure we're going to debunk quite a large amount of misconceptions that are taking place right now, and people are doing in the name of, concluding in the name of quote unquote science. And there's nothing scientific about the conclusions that they're making. They're absolute, complete, and utter bunk. So they will be debunked. Okay, let's get started where we left off. Okay. I remember exactly where we left off for obvious reasons, so we'll pick up from there. Here we go. So we'll continue like we did yesterday's stream. I don't think we'll do any different. We'll kind of just go through pick by pick, and I'll kind of talk through certain things. Like I said, if you feel if you want to ask a question, please feel free to. If you want to jump on, I've pinned the link. So if you're feeling sociable and brave and feel like you want to give some input, you are very welcome to join me, so that I don't have to, like I said, sit here by myself and lecture you guys. But if you're happy to be lectured, then you can do that as well. All right, so what you're seeing on the screen at the moment is well, let me ask the question. Do you know who this is? Does anyone know whose skull this is, or what the name of this skull is? Let me see if anyone recognizes them. So the bottom left is the bottom left is the real images, and so these two images. I want to do a quick test of the community. Does anyone recognize who this character might be? I'll wait for like a couple of seconds, see if anyone responds. If not, I'll jump in. Actually, whilst I'm waiting for that input, I'm going to just put Daniel's statement on the screen, which is absolutely true. It says they want to say Ethiopians are white and present East African as a migratory group, which is hilarious. I find it hilarious now how much Caucasians are simping for East Africa, for want of a better word. You know, I just find it hilarious how much they want to be Ethiopian now. The irony of these people, and some people would say caucasity, I'd say the temerity of these people, who for the life of me, during the early 90s, well, throughout the 90s, late 80s and 90s, Ethiopia was like the biggest slur. It literally meant poor African. If someone wanted to insult you, they'd call you, oh, you look at you, you're Ethiopian, and they had all of these slurs that they'd use against African people to say basically we're starving. And now they want to claim East African achievements. They want to claim Ethiopia's history. I just find it so delightfully amusing, and I remember Kenyans going to court, the Maasai and the Mau Mau, or descendants of the Mau Mau, going to court, taking the British government to court for the atrocities and the genocide committed against Kenyans. And now you want to be Kenyans, you want to be black Kenyans. What's wrong with these people? This is the thing that I can't fathom. It's like you're going to claim an entire 50% of Africa as your own now. You're going to say that no. By Africans, we don't mean these East Africans who we spent the last 300 years massacring and stealing their land and displacing and calling the N-word. No. We don't mean them. We meant you. We meant the other ones, not these Africans. It's like these people don't have any shame whatsoever.
Can you hear me? Hello?
How you doing, sir?
What are you saying, King? What's up, bro?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good. Oh, that rant you were just going on, I relate to it so much. Just the other day, I had some guy try and tell me that the Kushites were white. The Nubians were white people. That we was Aryan kings. Jeez, bro.
And it's the irony of the fact that they'll turn around to us and use the phrase "we was kangs," as an insult. Oh, we was kangs, you guys. It's like you guys are you're literally saying black Africans are white. It's like, what? I don't understand. It's like they won't even give us all of Nigeria. It's like they'll say Nigerians, then they'll say, oh well, actually no, not the Fulani. And then I had someone actually I was on a post, one of these stupid fake genetic posts, and someone was like, oh well, all of Africa has had Eurasian backflow. Nigeria has had 20% Eurasian black. So it's like, this is why I just sighed. You know what I mean? It's just like, even black people are lapping this up. In all fairness, even black people are lapping this up. I just sigh. I'm just like, do you guys not understand like how out of Africa works? Am I in the Twilight Zone here? Am I in the Twilight Zone? Because we agree that everyone came out of Africa, but everyone's calling themselves Eurasian because of these mythical back migrations that took place. Right. And I explained something to people, and there's only two. So let me explain how there's only two possibilities here. Okay. Africa is the most genetically diverse place on the planet by several factors, by the way. When I say Africa, I could literally just pick Nigeria as a country, and Nigeria has more genetic diversity than all of Europe and most of West Eurasia combined. Okay, just that one nation has more genetic diversity than pretty much most of the rest of the world put together. So there's only two explanations for this, and I've explained this before. Explanation number one is Shimoko Keita's explanation, and that is that the genetic diversity that we see predates the phenotypic diversity, i.e., all of the genetic diversity took place in Africa before people started to expand. Okay, so all that genetic diversity, when people get these markers and they go, oh, well, I've got this marker, I'm this, I've got this, they have to explain the fact that all of those markers that make them unique, the European marker, the Asian marker, the this marker, that marker, they have to explain the fact that all of those markers exist in Africa in the same form. Yeah, that's what they're talking about when they're talking about the genetic diversity of Africa. We have all of the markers that are found around the world. So they go, oh, well, you know, what happened is a bat migration took place. All of these bat migrations took place. So this is why I'm saying there's only two possibilities here. Possibility number one is what Shimoko Keita said, is that there is no, well, there is no, or there's very few bat migrations. All of those markers originated in Africa. And so therefore, you guys can't claim them to be European, Asian, they're all African. You just happen to share them with Africans. That's logical. That doesn't require much explanation because we know that the expansion was out of Africa. So that's logical. The other argument is the back migration argument. Now, the back migration argument, that's fine if you want to argue that, but then you can't argue the back migration argument and then also argue that Africa was the dark continent. Because if all of these populations over time found themselves back in Africa, that means that Africa was the hub of the planet.
Right.
Yeah, that means that Africa was where it was happening, because you've told us that the Fertile Crescent is where it was happening. Iraq, oh, Samaria, that's where it was all happening.
Right.
Samaria doesn't have any genetic diversity. Iraq doesn't have any genetic diversity. None of these places that you claim are so amazing, where everything was happening in the world, have got any genetic diversity to prove that all of this trade and all of this exchange was happening. Africa does. Exactly. So you only have two possibilities. One, Africa is the center of civilization, trade, merchantry, everything, because everyone came back to Africa who left. That's the only way you can explain that. Or two, everyone was diverse before they left. That's it. Those are your only two possibilities.
Exactly. And even from a linguistic perspective, they can't deny that the Afroasiatic came from Africa, because a lot of scholars now are what's it called, admitting that the Proto-Afroasiatic came from the land of Ethiopia. And, you know, it then turned into things like the Omotic, you know, the Cushitic languages and stuff like that. So even from a linguistic perspective, you have to admit that the hub was Africa.
They absolutely know that. 100%. They absolutely know that. There's more Africa. Well, there's much more Afroasiatic languages in Africa, but even Semitic, which is supposed to be the foreign branch of Afroasiatic, we still have more Semitic languages in East Africa than we do in the rest of the world. So They can't even argue for a branch of Afroasiatic being more African, let alone the Afroasiatic phylum, of which we have Chadic, Semitic, ancient Egyptian, apparently, Cushitic, and Berber, and those are all African, 100% African, not spoken anywhere else. So it's like, where are you going with this argument? So yeah, I mean, they can argue the back migrations if they want, but when they put that back migration argument forward, then they start trying to say, well, Africans are, but then the simple question I'll say to them is, why was everyone coming back to Africa? And why weren't they going anywhere else? Why does Africa have all of the markers from the rest of the world and no other place on the planet does? Why is that? You have to explain that. Now, I prefer Shimoko Keita's explanation. That makes far more sense. But if you want to argue the back migrations, we can do that as well. But then you have to admit that Africa was where it was happening, and you've been lying about where the center of civilization was.
I agree. I 100% agree. Yep.
That's it. Because yeah, that would prove the fact that Africa has every single marker across the world would prove that everyone was going to Africa. That's it. There's just Anyway, let's move on, because I wanted to go through this. So I think someone guessed. Well, someone said Akhenaten. Strictly speaking, I have to say on the screen, this is KV55, who I think is Akhenaten, by the way. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but officially it's not been confirmed. Now, you guys know the reason I think is Akhenaten is because of the work or the paper that I'm producing at the moment, which started with me having to create these kind of 2D representations of KV55 skull, so I could then use it to do forensic work. So in this rendition, I had to close the jaw. You can see it's open here. So I had to close the jaw, because I'm working with 2D imagery, and unfortunately they're not very generous with the images of these skulls. So after rebuilding, I was able to close the jaw so it was usable, and then from there I was able to do cross comparison work with Akhenaten. This one was just a comparison of the different colors used, which allowed me to settle on a complexion. So someone asked me, how do I settle on complexions? This is how I settled on Akhenaten's one. I just have done a comparison with his works, took into account how much it's faded, and then looked at living populations that present a similar coloration, and that's kind of the color I settled. Then there you can see a far man in the bottom left, very similar to kind of colors you see used for Tutankhamun. How do you feel about that so far?
Fire. That's fire. It makes sense. Yeah, I mean, no reaching here like the the other reconstruction artists do. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the approach. We don't reach, and this is the thing. They do a whole load of reaching, and we don't.
There's no reaching needed on your part. There's no reaching needed at all. Like at all.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that vote of confidence. So going to the busts, comparison here was being made between the stylistic busts, which are shown here. This is kind of like Akhenaten in stylistic form. I don't think these are realistic. And these are the more realistic busts. This one is a plaster cast of his actual face. Right. So to me, there's just no denying here. You have to use this if you're going to create a reconstruction, because
100%.
It's a mold based in his face. And if you have a look at some of the busts, they reflect that. Go ahead.
King, not to throw you off, bro. What the hell happened last live stream? Because I tuned out for like 2 hours. I came back and then I saw you having like a breakdown. Like, oh,
you don't need to know. If you missed it, you missed it, man. If you missed it, you missed it, man.
Oh,
if you were here, you know. That's it's been erased as well. I went
to look, bro. I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
No. I did an Operation Legacy on that as well. If you know, you know. I did an Operation Legacy. I did a for Queen and Country, and went and just erased all the evidence.
It went, bro.
Yeah, so you'll just hear rumors about it, and the Masons will talk about it. Yeah, the secret societies will know, but you'll never know. Man. So yeah. This I mentioned yesterday that this bust over here, this little fragment, the mouth here, is actually an addition. It's a stucco addition. And I mentioned yesterday that I believe they were in the process. I believe this is how they found both the Nefertiti and the Akhenaten bust in this kind of state. And see what's happening over here on Akhenaten's mouth. I believe they were in the process of basically rebuilding a fake Akhenaten face, and they kind of got rumbled halfway through. Yeah, because this is stucco. This is not the original limestone. This is the plaster cast. This is the stucco that they used. The same thing they would. You can see it's all smoothed.
Yeah,
the same approach they would have taken with Nefertiti, and you can see they've started filling up the gaps at the top here. So they were in the process of doing that, and I think they kind of got rumbled and they had to leave it. So, I kind of use this one just for proportions, in terms you can still kind of see the prognathism, different elements of the structure of his face, but I can't really use these lips anymore because I know they're fake, so I'm not interested in them. And it's not, and to be honest, they're not far off Akhenaten's other lips, just slightly thinned out, which is possible based on the expression, but I'm still not interested based on the fact that I know it's a fake now, so I don't use this one anymore. But you can see all the other ones. I would say there's a broad consistency between all of these other depictions.
For sure.
And these are my reconstructions. You saw most of these yesterday, but this is my latest takes on Akhenaten. and I've really tried to take into account everything that I could see here in terms of the artwork and just give a as true a render as possible. And then this is the artwork overlaid with the reconstructed 2D skull. So you can see, you know, that's, to me, that's very accurate. And it has to be if I'm going to make the claim, because remember, this is the plaster cast mold based on his actual face. Right. So if the skull was right, it needs to fit perfectly. And I honestly haven't seen a more perfect fit for a skull, you know, to a bust. That's really pretty, pretty close, you know.
Yeah.
So then, that makes me quite confident to then be able to utilize that for reconstruction. So, oops, I've skipped over a bit too far there. Okay, so this is now getting closer to my final Tutankhamun. It's not quite there. I've got another one after this, but this is getting close to the final. And I was quite pleased with how this was turning out. You got any thoughts on that reconstruction? I'm just going to read some comments while you're doing that.
I mean, I've just noticed like he has obviously I don't want to, you know, Africa's a very genetically diverse place, as you said earlier, right? But I'm noticing that like in this reconstruction he has almost like an East African look to him, like a, you know, like obviously, no, I don't want to say like Nile Valley, but like, you know, if you go to somewhere like, I don't know, maybe Ethiopia, maybe Djibouti, like people like this look quite similar.
Yeah.
So
I think he looks really Nubian personally. I think he looks really, really Nubian. That was my gone.
Would you say the modern Nubian population, or?
Yeah. I think he looks like he looks very close to the modern Nubian. To me, anyway. I always get kind of like modern Nubian. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say you're correct. Also, this is a side view of Akhenaten based on the reconstruction and the skull.
The thing about your reconstructions is like it's like I know someone who looks like this in real life. It's like it looks real to life. It's like, yeah, okay, I definitely know like an uncle and auntie who looks something like this. So it's like at least you're spot on with that. Like, you know, it doesn't look like it's unrealistic, because a lot of the time when you look at these these Egyptian reconstructions from obviously the Eurocentrics and whatever, it doesn't look like a real human being. It looks like the facial features look like it's like they're trying to fit an African almost, you know, facial feature on a Europe, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. The reason that you gave there is the one that I would give. You know, it's hard because Africans, especially let's just talk about an African skull. Africans' facial phenotypic diversity matches our genotypic diversity in that we're much broader than the rest of the world. Most other world populations have got very narrow phenotypes in terms of the amount of diversity they see within things like the shape of their features. So if you go to Eastern Asia, for instance, you've got a very narrow phenotype range in terms of how people will present themselves. You're not going to get a long-faced dolichocephalic person in East Asia. It just doesn't happen. They're pretty much, you know, uniformly brachycephalic in the East Asian population, with quite flat faces and etc. You go into Europe, you get a little bit more phenotypic diversity, but it's still very much between that brachycephalic and mesocephalic range. In terms of the features, you know, subnasal prognathism is very rare amongst, you know, non-black populations, and just the presentation of their features speak about the fact that they got much more hollowed out frontal zygomatics, but the zygomatic major, or at least the side of their cheeks can be wider, but the front of their cheeks don't project forward, whereas in amongst Africans you get the frontal projection of the cheek. You got all of these little subtle things, but in Africa you just get it all. And so they get an African skull, and then they try and plaster Eurasian phenotype on top of it, and it doesn't work because you're trying to present features that don't exist within your populations. And it doesn't help them that, you know, a majority of Egyptian skulls are dolichocephalic. That doesn't help because that's like
Yeah.
almost an instant disqualifier for like 99.1% of their population. It's an instant disqualifier. You're just, none of you have this skull shape. So even before we get to the facial features, you're trying to stretch your features over this bean head skull, which you don't have, but Africans have it in spades. You know, not every African has it, but you know, everyone's got someone in their family who's got the African bean head. And just, you know, that doesn't help that all of the, you know, ancient Egyptians had that head. So, you know, but yeah, I totally agree with you. Frontal projections there of Akhenaten. I think that speaks for itself. And then we're coming on to some more variations of Tutankhamun, which I just could never get out. This was getting close. I still wasn't quite there. There was still some features that I had to work with. I feel like it was getting there. It was getting there, but it wasn't quite there. And then I had a bit of fun with some fakes here. I'm not sure if everyone saw this post. Does anyone know what the deal is with this Ushabti? Because I've posted about this. I want to see how many people saw my post regarding this specific Ushabti. It's King Tutankhamun again, but what is it about this specific one that I have an issue with? Do you know?
I have no idea. No.
Okay, cool. That's good. I like it when people don't know that. Even though I've posted these, it means that not everyone's caught everything. So that means this live stream is worthwhile because everyone learns something a little bit new. So this Ushabti of Tutankhamun, okay. And by the way, all of the Michael Jackson representations of Tutankhamun. See, someone said it already. Michael Jackson.
I was about to say.
All of the Michael Jackson representation of Tutankhamun. If it looks like Michael Jackson, it's because it's been tampered. Let me make that very clear. When I say tampered, I mean they rubbed down or gotten rid of the actual genuine color of the artwork, and then they've repainted certain parts of it, which is what gives it the Michael Jackson look. I.e., they've painted red on the lips where it didn't exist, and they've painted black around the eyes and repainted the eyebrows, and so they've done this to create the idea that this rubbed down wood is the target color of the ancient Egyptians. None of this is the target color. This is complete tampering. And before you guys go, oh, well, you know, you're making it up, I came with receipts. Okay? So let's check some of these receipts. Gonna go forward a few. So this is what a proper untampered Ushabti of Tutankhamun looks like, because these are untampered Ushabtis of Tutankhamun. Do you know what this one at the top is?
The Michael Jackson reconstruction, right?
It's the one we were just looking at. Now I want you to look at the arms, and I want you to look at most of the face. Yeah, can you see what it would have looked like originally in terms of 100%. Color? Yeah. It would have looked like this originally in terms of color. But we all know in the world of Egyptology, they don't like to keep things as they are. They like to make things to look like they're in the image of white people or Arabs. So they took this beautiful Ushabti, which they could have restored by just painting the face brown again, like his other Ushabtis. But we all know they wouldn't do that. They preferred to take the route of rubbing off all of the brown paint, which you can see around the neck and everywhere. Yeah, you can see it you can particularly see it in the crevices and the cracks. Okay, let me just go back. That's another fake, by the way. So can you see in the crack here? Yeah, that's where the proper paint color has been preserved. They decided to rub that all off, and then just for extra shits and giggles, they put red lipstick on him and repainted around the eyes, just to really emphasize the fact that they wanted him to appear pale. I mean, this is pathetic. It's the only word I can call it. They've actually ruined a very beautiful piece of art. Because if you look how it looked before they tampered it. Look at the difference, man.
That's crazy.
This is how it looked before they tampered it.
No respect. No respect.
For
what's it called? I mean, it is what it is. Like, you know exactly why they're doing this. They know who the people are, and it's like, okay, we don't like these people. So even their ancestors, even the people who we admire so much, we're gonna tamper with their stuff and we're gonna destroy it. It's like no respect at all, and it, as you said, pathetic, completely pathetic.
It's absolutely disgusting. The fact that they get away with this and then they present this, as though it's, this is absolutely just, it's abhorrent to me, and this one as well. A lot of these circulate the internet, and people, this is not a genuine Tutankhamun Ushabti. These are, I can't remember the museum. I think they might be in the Boston Museum. I could be incorrect, but these are all just basically remakes. This one that we're looking at is supposed to be a remake of, let me see if I have it. I'm going back too far, sorry. I'm trying to see if I've got it. Yeah. It's supposed to be a remake of one that looks like this. Yeah. But they'll never use the dark brown. So instead of giving you the dark brown, so I'm going too far, they give you this, which is ridiculous. Let me make this clear to everybody. All right. Let me make this clear to everybody who's on the live stream and everyone who's got to tune in the future. There is not a single representation of Tutankhamun or any genuine ancient Egyptian ever depicted in this color. This color here that you're looking at is a total fabrication of either vandals or Egyptologists. Okay, this is a fake. This is not even classed as a statue of Tutankhamun or Ushabti. This is literally a remake. So if you do a image search for this one, you'll see that it's not a genuine artifact. Okay. And they do this a lot. They flood the internet with these, fakes and these tampered artworks. The genuine Ushabtis of Tutankhamun are consistently this color, always a deep dark brown, always. So go on. Yeah.
Speaking of what's it called, Egyptologists, what are your thoughts on Petrie? Because I heard you speak about him a bit in our last stream, but I just like to know your thoughts on Petrie because. I'm gonna use my words carefully here, but he didn't present anything good. He was I think he was an ardent racist, and I know he's one of the kind of the senior Egyptologists, particularly from the British perspective. But he was one of the ones that really wanted to advance he had this religious agenda as well, where he wanted, that's probably where you have your interest, he was very concerned with making the biblical worldview be the correct worldview. So he'd force, it was like, biblical narratives into the things that he observed in ancient Egypt. And he was obviously convinced that all of those characters, those biblical characters, were the same race as him. And he used to push that through the nonsense that he created. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Petrie at all. He's responsible for a lot of the fakes that we have to put up with now being accepted into mainstream Egyptology. Agreed.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, through my research on him, he doesn't hide that he's a racist. It's pretty much over there. I'm surprised that they have a whole museum dedicated to this man. The Petrie Museum. I've been looking at stuff from there, and pathetic. He's just trying to fit to his narrative a lot of fakes, a lot of do-overs. Yeah, I mean, you just basically said what I've wanted to say. Like, yeah, he's a racist, and obviously, as you said, he did want to fit into the biblical narrative a lot. The Zionist agenda and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't really want to bring down your channel, obviously. But
no, it's fine. It's fine. I think Blue Man Visions just said Hamitic. So Hamitic race theory. I believe that was Petrie's.
Oh, that nonsense! Oh my days.
That was his baby, wasn't it? The Hamitic race theory.
I hate it so much. Oh my god.
And it's funny how everyone's building on that now. That's how the live stream started, with this discussion about, East Africans now, or claiming the entirety of the East Africa now as Hamites. It's just absolutely ludicrous.
To say that Ethiopians and Cushites were white is like it gives me a headache. It gives me a migraine. I just want bro.
Indeed. Who do we have joining us here? You're on live, by the way. How you doing, sir?
How you doing?
I'm very well.
Everyone in the room. Amenhotep Seti I.
How you doing? Do you have any questions you want to put forward? Welcome. It's really good to have you.
Well, I've been at the study and researching of the Kemetic people that people call Egypt. The Greeks put that classification on our ancient ancestors. refer to our ancestors.
We'll lose.
Herodotus in the Hyksos, the ancient Kemet, they classified them as Egyptians, which in the root etymology of the word Egyptos means burnt or black skin. But the ancient Kemetic people considered themselves to be Kemetic or Kemite, which translates in their language to land of the black.
Excellent
And
input.
we tend to let other so-called. I mean, most of the times I've had discussions with people regarding Egypt or the pyramids, Timbuktu, Ethiopia, Sudan, Kush, the Kushite people. They always bring in this theological, religious, Indo-European. They always have an angle when you first begin to have this discussion, because what they're trying to get you to do is admit that the ancient Egyptians were not, quote unquote, classified as African or black people. But all of the evidence, both the radiocarbon dating, the phenotype studies of the skulls, the mitochondrial DNA studies has proven without a shadow of a doubt that the ancient Kemetic people were black and of African extraction. So I yield.
And I'd agree with that. Yeah, thank you for the input there. I think one of the things that you said that got me thinking is the place names. So you mentioned ancient Egypt being called Kemet, which means black. Someone said could mean hot. We'll come on to that in a moment. And then afterwards being called by the Greeks being called Egyptos, which I thought was a bastardization of the term Hai Kiptar or Het Kar Ptah, which is the house of the spirit of Ptah, which was the name of Memphis, which was the southern. So go ahead. It was the southernmost point of the Delta region. So I always emphasize the point that the name Egypt was never supposed to be applied to the entirety of the place we call Kemet, but just the Delta region, which is the region that the Greeks had control of, essentially. Yeah. So it was literally just the northern part that should have been well, at least historically, was classified as Egypt, up to Memphis. So yeah, that's. I had this thought, and this is just my thought, but I was thinking about toponyms, which is obviously names of places historically, and I think there's a theme that seems to run quite consistently, and I know Yar is very real will have some input on this one as well, on this perspective as well. But I find that we have these debates about what a lot of place names mean, and one of the things I've realized is that meaning tends to come after in a weird way for a lot of place names. So, and a lot of the time the meaning can be exonymic, i.e. the meaning can be applied because of what a outside population thinks of that population. And to give examples of this, there are certain place names that all translate, or at least now everyone thinks means black. So everyone thinks Kemet means black, everyone thinks Sudan means black, everyone thinks Moor or Morus means black. Yeah, correct. All of these three different things. Now, when I've looked historically, the term Moor seems to relate more to water. The term Sudan seemed to relate more to it being south. And the term Kem, I'm still on the fence about, but I'm happy. But the point I'm trying to make is that the populations that came after or surrounded these nations looked at these nations and just said, well, these people are all this tone, so we'll just say it means black, as opposed to when the name was established, you know, as the name they placed, them calling themselves or calling their place the black place.
Yes,
That's
but
the
from an etymology perspective.
yeah,
I agree with you, but at the same time, even if we replace the word black with melanin, because we can prove what melanin is from a scientific biological standpoint. But at the same time, I agree with you. A lot of these terms were placeholders that were placed on our ancestors by outsiders that came into civilization to the continent.
Or it's certainly the go on.
They classified just made up terms that they didn't understand because they didn't understand the language of the indigenous or the native people of that land. And Europeans are superb at classifying things as if they were things, people, or places from a Eurocentric mindset.
Yeah. So that's exactly that. So that's, I mean, to give an example of just some of the examples that I gave. So people think that, for instance, going back to like more, so the Greeks, or so I should say the Romans, called came up with the word Moris, for the people of Mauritania. And
Mauritania, correct.
Over time, Moorish just meant black because basically everyone who came from that place were really black. So they was like, well, Morris is black. That's gonna be our new word for black. It's the same. It's almost like the word orange for us.
Correct.
We call an orange an orange because it's orange. Okay, it wasn't like we don't call the color orange because of the fruit. We call it. Do you understand what I mean? So this is kind of what they've done, where because they've like, oh, okay, well this is a you know, these people are all black, so we're gonna call our word for black Morris, like the people down there. You look really Morris, for instance,
Correct.
But the word indigenously can be traced back to the I've spoken about this before. Can be traced back to the MR term, which means water in ancient Egypt.
Which is merit.
Exactly. So we have Mary, Tamari, which people said is beloved land, but could be the land of two waters. But we could talk about that later. But the point being that it carried that meaning even over into modern times, even in England, where you have words like moor and marsh still meaning water. So they still kept that original meaning of it meaning water.
Correct.
Another word we give example of this is Niger. Okay, which the Spanish and the Europeans turn around, well, hey, Niger equals black, and everyone thinks, oh, Niger just means that's what they call black people. It's like, no, that's what they called people who bordered the River Niger or the Niger River, which once again you could trace to ancient Egypt and say River of the Gods, the Niger, or you can trace the Berber, which it can mean the River of Rivers, the Ger Niger or the Gir Niger. Although I think the Kemetic one's more plausible than that, to be honest with you. But the point is, they all had meanings before people just decided they meant black. Correct. That's the only point I was going to raise there.
I'm in the state. Not to interrupt you, but I'm in the state, and that's a big problem in the state with quote unquote black people. Yes, I'm black. No, I'm not black. Well, yes, I'm Negro. No, I'm not Negro. Because I shouldn't say we, but I'm saying a lot of confusion on the identification and what cultural and what race we are and what should we classify ourselves as. Well, I'm not African. I don't live in Africa. I wasn't born in Africa. Well, that has a lot to do with nationality and has to do with the country or the land in which we were born in. But the so-called black people in America who can trace their roots to Africa are treated like Africans in America the way Americans treat Africans when they're in Africa. So that should clear that up. It should be as simple as spoken, but it's not, because there's a lot of conflicting ideas and views on uh, are we Kemetic? Are we Kupilanians? Are we Nigerian? Are we Nigerians? Are we from Niger or Congolese? Or so you have a lot of that discussion going on in America, particularly now.
Oh yeah, it's wild right now. And
Yeah.
I mean, just to be clear on my standpoint on this, and once again, no one has to believe what I believe, but I'm very clear on the fact that I believe black people are from everywhere, and we were everywhere first. And so the whole idea of trying to restrict us to the African continent, I actually fight against that. I'm like, well, listen, you can't. I can restrict you. Any other kind of like type of people or phenotype of people, I can restrict to a origin point and say, no, you're all from there. But the one people that you can't do that with is black people, because we were the first to expand into literally every continent on the planet. They didn't change on the African continent and then expand. It's proven they left the continent looking how we look currently in Africa. So therefore, we inhabited or are indigenous to every continent on the planet. So I'm and that's a big part for me of actually understanding the narrative of black people, is not to restrict ourselves. Because it's quite funny, because just on a quick side note, I was on a live stream yesterday, and it was a TikTok one. I just kind of like invited myself into someone's live stream, and they were having one of these big kind of like FBA versus Pan-African, versus Pan-African versus indigenous. Gone.
I was on that live stream. I think I was on that live stream, but I didn't say anything. I didn't.
Was you there on TikTok yesterday?
Yeah, I was just looking at the.
Oh wow! See. So there you go. So I asked him a very simple question. I said to him, so I asked the host a very simple question, because he was like, the wild thing was a lot of black people do this. They have the ability to believe every single race other than black people existed in America. So if you tell them white people existed in America, they'll be like, yeah, fine. Of course there were some there. If you tell them Asians, yeah, of course there were Asians there. Indians, yeah, of course there were Indians there. Chinese, of course there were Chinese there. Black people, no, there were no black people there. Do you understand what I mean? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So I just asked him a very, very simple question. I just said to him, look, on a very, very basic level, do you believe Melanesians, found their way into America? Yeah, of course Melanesians found their way into America. So then I said, aren't Melanesians black? He's like, they're not related to you. I said, no. That wasn't the question I asked you. It wasn't the question I asked you. I said, were Melanesians black? Yeah, were Melanesians black? And he didn't want to answer the question. Well, Melanesians are different. It's like, look, it's a very simple question. If someone saw a Papua New Guinean person, would they say they're black? For me, the answer is quite clearly yes, they would. Yeah. So if you've just argued that Melanesians found their way to America, then you have to accept the fact that there were black people in America when they got there, in one shape or another. It might not make people comfortable, but it's just a fact you have to deal with. Right. Okay, you can't just accept the Filipino-looking types,
and
but
you
then
can't get around
the black-looking ones. It doesn't make any sense, and this is the point people are trying to say.
In the Americas or the Western Hemisphere, and once you get to that point, it's they're not the same kind of black. They're not the same type of. They're different types. We're part of the Indian, the indigenous people of America. Well, the indigenous people of America are melanized and African people. That's been proven through anthropological studies. That has been proven. It's proven that they found hieroglyphs and statues of pharaohs and goddesses and kings that they believe predate the Pyramid of Giza. Now this is in the Grand Canyon, deep inside of the Grand Canyon, but now they have it cordoned off with armed security. You can't go in those hiking areas anymore now. But I don't know if you guys saw that story, but they've actually found hieroglyphs in
I haven't.
spite of the good things.
That's very interesting, and I haven't heard that story.
It's a big talk about that now, because you should be able to find the story even on probably Wikipedia. But there's a big discussion now on did the ancient African people, Egyptian people, were they here predating that Toltecs, the Mayans, the Incans, or even the Olmecs? I mean, if you're talking Olmec, you're still talking about Melanesian people who were here predating Christopher Columbus.
Mm. I still find it very interesting you were on the live stream yesterday, because that's like that's like a 1 in 100. That's brilliant. What did you think? I tried to stay very, very quiet and not be too, because I've been in those debates before and people get really heated and really rude. So I was just trying to
And differences, because that's the reason why I try to stay on. I give an explanation. These terms and classifications and titles and names and artificial borders and all these things were not really constructed by African people. These were from Europeans. These were the Romans. These were people that were not at the time Africa was in its zenith. When we had our great kingdom, predating this is pre-dynastic. They don't really give credit to that, but from what I got out of that is that once the classification black comes into it, all hell breaks loose.
Definitely.
Then everybody's disagreeing, not agreeing. Well, if you're half black, then you're not all black. But if you black, you are black. And I'm like, wow, this is a bunch of confusion.
Yeah, it's wild. And you know what? I think before I move on, because I'm going to move on from this topic in a second, because it's totally left field of where we started. But I did just want to touch really, really quickly on the whole idea that basically, if you do a genetic test, you're from West Indies, Caribbean, I should say, you're from South America, and you're from America, you're all going to pull up Nigerian DNA. Yeah. Don't think there's anyone in those areas that doesn't pull up Nigerian DNA. So let me give a very brief explanation why you're not alone in pulling up Nigerian DNA. Going back to what I was explaining earlier, Africa, in particular West Africa, by the way, genetic diversity is vast. Yeah. When I say vast, I mean pretty much every single subclade that's used to define different populations can be found in West Africa. The only difference between the way that they classify the rest of the world's DNA and the quote unquote diaspora's DNA is that when a subclade in common appears between, I don't know, a Japanese man and a Nigerian, they call it a Japanese marker. When a subclade in common appears between a European, and by the way, that marker that all Europeans have, i.e. 75% of Europeans, 99% of Irish people, R1b, can be found in Central West Africa in the Cameroon. When that appears, do you think they turn around and call that a Nigerian marker? No, they call it a European marker. You can repeat this all over the world, literally. You've got the same thing for North Africa, the same thing for Iraq. All of those markers that these companies used to say these people come from this area, they all exist in West Africa. They all exist in Nigeria. So all of these people should be pulling up, I'm 96%, I'm 85%, I'm 82% Nigerian. But they don't do it that way because the historical narrative they've given told them that only these people. So when inevitably other populations like Americans, West Indians pull up large amounts of Nigerian DNA, they go, that's where you're from. And it's like, no, it's just the way you've chosen to interpret data. And I had this actually confirmed for me because I saw this Jamaican woman's DNA profile she had, And in her DNA profile, in fact, I should find that. I'm going to find that image before the end of the stream. But in a DNA profile, it came up 100% West African, 100% Sub-Saharan African. And when you clicked into it, she had 15% of her ancestry that she shared with Nigerians, yeah, and then 85% of her ancestry was restricted to Jamaica. So 85% of her ancestry was, you know, related to Kingston and this place and that place within Jamaica, other Jamaican populations. That was where the other 85% of her ancestry came from. The only link that they had between that ancestry and Nigeria was the fact that they believe in the slave trade narrative. Oh, you're Jamaican, you must be from Nigeria. So they just labeled all that Jamaican ancestry as Nigerian, even though it wasn't shared with anyone in Nigeria.
Yeah,
that's what they do, and they do that with a lot of Americans. So a lot of Americans think, oh yeah, I'm this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. It's like a lot of that stuff that they're labeling Nigerian actually is unique to Americans, and they won't ever tell you that.
Right. Oh yeah. Because now the discussion and the debate is, well, how much percentage am I indigenous American, whatever that means, Indian?
You'll never know.
Choctaw, my Seminole. No, you never know, because there's a lot of biases within the science of genetics.
Absolutely.
You know, they play a big role in trying to mystify the science when the science is the science. The proof is in the science, and then the genetic markers and the genetic results.
But the problem is the interpretation. So this is the thing. When I have the live stream with the geneticist, that's going to be really interesting, because we had this whole discussion, and the problem is that genetic data is a situation. You've all heard the term GIGO, which is garbage in, garbage out. Okay. Correct. Really, you're not going to get anything from it if the algorithms you're using to process the data don't make any sense. And the problem is, I could turn around and be really mad at the genetic companies, but I'm not going to be mad at them, because they are as trusting of the historical narrative that we've all been given as everyone is. Everyone trusts the false historical narrative that this world operates from. And because of this false historical narrative, that's the only way they can make sense of the data they've got. Yeah, they haven't got any algorithms to make sense of someone being 85% Jamaican. Instead of that being alarm bells and then being like, wait a second, why is this 85% of these black people in Jamaica, why is 85% of her DNA not in common with anything we can see, you know, in this part of the world and unique to this part of the world, rather than them taking that and going, okay, let's do further investigation. And just go, oh no, let's just label it Nigerian. It's like Nigerians are just getting glory from all everything was created by Nigerians, which is cool. I'm Nigerian, like cool. Like if you want to give me all the kudos for all of the cool things that black people have created around the world, that's fine. But it's not true. This is the problem. It's not true. This is a narrative that we've all been fed, and it's not correct. And it's important that we get a bit more in depth and understand our genetics a bit. Well, I can't wait to do the live stream because I'm not a geneticist, but when I do have them on here, we're going to kick some butt. RJ, how you doing, sir? Is your mic working? You're unmuted, but I can't hear you. I'll leave. I'll wait for you to get here. I'm going to move on because we stuck on that topic. Oh, there we go. How you doing?
Oh, that's me.
Oh no, sorry, go on.
I was going to ask you something before you move topics. We were talking about it earlier about Mesopotamia and obviously that whole nonsense. Well, what do you think about the Mesopotamia hypothesis? Because we know that there's not a lot of phenotypic diversity from that land. We also know that there's not linguistic diversity in terms of like the Proto-Afroasiatic languages, and obviously the cuneiform stuff that doesn't really add up with like the hieroglyphs. And what do you think about the location of Mesopotamia that we've been given today?
I'm not going to argue with the location because I don't have an alternative location, although I've heard good theories from people about it being maybe situated elsewhere. But the one thing I'll argue with is its significance. That's the only thing I can argue with, you know. I think its significance has deliberately been overinflated in terms of its impact on the world without any real evidence of it having any of that significance. So the
Okay.
idea that the historians tried to initially push was that, oh, well, the Mesopotamians taught the Egyptians how to write, but we already know that's been disproven because the Egyptian writing system comes from pictures, which Mesopotamians never had, and indigenous animals. So straight away, that one's off the thingy. Then they try and say, well, Mesopotamians introduced, pastoralism into Egypt, but then once again, the Egyptian cattle, the Ankore cattle, that was utilized in ancient Egypt comes from the Great Lakes region of Africa. Okay, it doesn't come from anywhere else. It's an African cattle. They had their pastoralism was based once again on fully African beasts of burden, so to speak. None of them were imported. We don't have any of that import of foreign animals into Egyptian pastoralism. So once again, that's a big fail.
Could I throw something out to you?
Of course, yeah.
How would this okay, so I'm entertaining a hypothesis currently that Mesopotamia could possibly have been in what's it called, the region of Sudan / Ethiopia. Would that make sense with them, what's it called, obviously the early civilizations being Nile Valley civilizations, they're moving from, maybe let's say Babylon, as they call it, down the Nile Valley to Egypt? How would that does that make sense? Would that make sense in, because I mean, I don't know how to say it, but I've been obviously hypothesizing that the region of Mesopotamia that they're telling us nowadays isn't actually the true location. So
correct.
Oh, you believe that too, Ben?
No, yes, I believe. Yes, I've heard that. I've read reading the works of Sexton Race, the George J.A. Rogers, volumes 1 and 2. He talks about Mesopotamia, what people know as Mesopotamia, from the ancient times, was not actually in the location that historians and anthropologists and linguists place it in. So if it's not in the region and it's further into the interior of Africa, then we can make a hypothesis and an argument that that was Africa. That was Africa had an influence. African people had a cultural, linguistical, and anthropological association with that Mesopotamia. If you take it out of what the modern Mesopotamia has been classified as.
Right, because the what's it called? The Greek term, the term Mesopotamia itself is a Greek term which means the land between the two rivers, right? Yes. And I've been entertaining that those two rivers could have possibly been between the White Nile and the Blue Nile, and that region which is called Shinar is known as Sinar, and that could have been, what's it called, a locus of where the Mesopotamian societies could have been. But obviously I would need, I don't want to throw that out there right now, as like a concrete thing, but that's something I'm entertaining at the moment. I've been reading on it and stuff, and obviously it's great to hear that other people are hearing the same thing, entertaining the same idea. So
but a good source to look into is the work of Sheikh Anta Diop, who is a African. He is a Kemetic Egyptologist from the 30s. He goes way back, and his work, African origins of Egypt. He has the skulls. He has all the phenotypes, the linguistical language, how ancient Egypt was the first language, even though it was in hieroglyphic structure. But the language became an utterance, which became a name of things that ancient Kemetic people named. It just so happened that it was so far back in time in antiquity that we don't have actually words to actually give a detailed meaning other than the hieroglyphs or the metronetic.
Interesting.
So I would say in response that I probably I'm not as well schooled as you in terms of the significance. Once again, I would just argue against the significance of Mesopotamia. It probably does have more significance, particularly from a biblical perspective. But I guess because I don't really approach things from, I just look at things from, okay, what's available anthropologically in terms of like evidence of civilization. And to me, ancient Egypt just has, or Kemet just has mountains more than Mesopotamia does. And in terms of, when I say more, I mean more in terms of impact and influence. It has tangible impact and influence, whereas the impact and influence of Mesopotamia is very limited. But I've heard very plausible origin stories for all of the kind of like biblical narrative and biblical places being on the African continent, and they make sense to me. So I wouldn't argue against that, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. That's it. That's all. So,
that's cool. Yeah. All right, reconstruction of T on the screen. So I'm just going to move us on a little bit because we did linger on that topic for time. So this reconstruction was kind of like probably around the third or fourth one I'd done of Queen T, and I was getting really close at this stage, I felt. And yeah, that there's not really much more to say than that.
She has a Nigerian auntie, like she's just like she's about to kiss her teeth at you or something.
I always said that. I always say Queen T's got that pointing with lips expression that only Nigerian aunties do.
She looks like my sister.
You know, when they ask you to pick something up, go pick it, and they just put it pick it. Get me the, you know.
Yeah, let me just say this, just chime in, is that these kind of discussions, or I think they're helpful and they're needed, because this whole redefining within academia, science, anthropology, history, linguistical.
Hell no, ew.
Technology. These have to. We need to have these discussions.
Absolutely.
What is that?
Ben, what do you think of the image on the screen that I've just put up there?
Mesopotamia. That could be Persian. That could be a Persian extract. It could be Khazarian.
Honestly, this is the like number one reconstruction of Queen T that you'll find from a Eurocentric, like Arab-centric perspective. It's like, I did this just as a meme, so I needed these two images. I was creating a short. I like to do my shorts, and it just basically flicked from one image to the next.
They can't be serious, man.
It's like, no, but this is the thing. They do stuff like this, and it's like there's absolutely zero. And it's the thing. The statues have to be fake to them, because even from a front view, the amount they've tried to adhere to what they see is so limited. But then it's like there's no prognathism. The lips are just not lipping, to say the least. There's nothing they've bothered to even adhere to. They literally just placed a face beside it and just hoped for the best. It's like, and to them, this is like, oh yes, this is what she truly looked like. My Queen T, beautiful. It's like, all right, man, enjoy, man, enjoy what you believe. Like, we're not, like you said earlier, we're not reaching. Yeah,
there's no reach.
African people aren't reaching when we say this is what the ancient Egyptians look like. Who's reaching here? I'll show you. Come on, who's reaching?
Yeah.
They're calling her a Nubian queen. Oh, brother. Oh, jeez, bro.
It's a joke, man. It's absolutely hilarious. I was having a discussion with someone the other day, and he kept calling. Oh, this is. He had a picture of Ramesses, and he kept saying, "Look at my granddad." I'm like, man, that's gross, dude.
My great.
Like,
30 gen.
It's like even calling, like, why are you calling him your granddad? Like you'll never hear, at least I don't think you'll hear an African talk like that. You know what I mean? Like,
No, for real. Like, have you seen those
why,
memes of like the
you
Arabs
know,
going to like museums and looking at the ancient Egyptian
my
statues and
uncle.
my uncle?
It's like, come on, man. Like, I don't look at the you know, the an Oba, you know what I mean, a Ben in Oba or whatever, and be like, oh, my granddad. It's like, that's gross, man. Have some self-respect. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. It's real weird to me, and a lot of that apparently is pushed by the Egyptian government, because they've got this whole thing now. It's kind of like, you're the descendants, like this whole diatribe
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
feed into the kids. These are your relatives. This is your Queen T is your grandma. So,
I'm pretty sure it's in the school
man.
curriculum itself. Like they've
Yeah,
put it in the
yuck,
school
man.
curriculum itself. It's terrible.
That's just trying too hard, man.
The people that occupy Northern Africa today, a lot of the Egyptologists and a lot of those that publish articles and studies, they have a slant, they have a bias even in the physical evidence, the anthropological evidence, that do not agree with these modern renditions of what Queen T, Tutankhamun looked like, Akhenaten, Seti the First, and so this is another angle that we have to fight and have to address, because of Aryan supremacy in the pathology of Aryan or superior thinking based on racial classification.
And you, to be honest with you, to compound what you've just said, you just need eyes as well. Because even this is what I've tried to do on this channel. I've tried to really just strip things down and just simplify things and get people to open their eyes, because it actually took me a while for my eyes to be open and to just understand, to not even just understand, to just see what I was looking at. Because I think that's how effective and how powerful our education system is. It creates a veil where you blind yourself to things that should be obvious visibly.
So obvious,
you know?
right? Yeah.
But the
And I think
introduction of it, I was just saying, the introduction of it, how academic, even in the States, you learn nothing new. You don't learn any of this, any information regarding African people predating the transatlantic slave trade. Most people believe our very existence began on the ship and on to Western colony soil, and then we became somebody. Then we had a language. Then we had a spirituality. Then we had a concept of a God, so forth. Before then, we didn't have that. That's what's taught in some of the schools in the States here.
Yeah,
because I went through that system.
It requires it's almost like when you're in a cult, the way these things operate is they require a constant line of propaganda being fed into your ear. Like blindness can't be maintained by itself or in isolation. It needs to be continually fed. And this is one of the reasons why I would encourage everyone, and I don't encourage people to do things normally. I'm just like, come here, listen, whatever. But one thing I encourage everyone to do is to not have the news playing in your house. Don't have that pipeline, that conduit of propaganda feeding into your psyche or feeding into the psyche of your children. Cut that off, because you're not going to be able to connect with anything historically while you're allowing that pipeline of lies to be consistently dripped into your households. So I'd say, as a one rule, just make sure you don't have newspapers and the news feeding into your house. I would say that's the only thing I would say. Beyond that, it's up to you. But I would say otherwise it's very, very hard. It's like when you're a member of a cult, you know, and you're going twice a week, you know, you're not going to be able to realize you're in a cult. You know, everybody in your family is going to be like, hey, mate, like, what's going on? You're acting a bit weird. It's like, no.
Right.
The Lord desires that I act this way. You know, it's like you're not going to see you're in a cult until, you know, mate, you're going on these trips, you know. You're spending 2 weeks away. every month.
Yeah.
We're worried about you, man. You got to cut off the news. You got to cut off those. Yeah, you got to cut off the cult of Western propaganda.
Because the propaganda has accelerated. It's intense,
absolutely.
It's purposeful, and now that we have augmented intelligence, AI, all these different platforms, and people are using those to pick up to expand the disinformation and the propaganda, but from a technological standpoint. But it's the same argument.
But they'll, let's be honest, like Eurocentrists and people who aren't interested in truth will utilize any tool they're given. So before this, it was Wikipedia, like they'll find ways of cornering the information. So I guess our challenge is to just make sure that we keep ourselves educated, and we also keep on top of the tools that get released, because AI can be a very effective tool.
That's exactly
for our own uses, but we have to be willing to engage it. We lost the Wikipedia battle, that's for sure. That battleground was well and truly lost, but I don't think there was ever a coordinated, organized attempt to really gain control of that platform. So we just have to make sure on this occasion, with the advent of AI, that we are getting on top of these technologies.
Do you think that they're going to use AI to obviously double down on this Egyptologist narrative that they've put forward? Because I mean, obviously, I just feel like it's already happening now. They're rewriting history. I mean, I saw a TikTok the other day of how the pyramids were how the pyramids were built, and there was a bunch of white people and these giants building the pyramid. And I just see it happening in the future, like 100 years from now. They're going to come up with completely different narratives, generated photos, and say that these were the Egyptians. They
already are.
Oh yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're doing that as we speak, as we're having this discussion. They're doing that now.
Yeah,
but the important thing is that we, like I said, they've never stopped. So expecting a behavior that has persisted for 300 years to stop or to cease or to reduce would be immature. So always assume that people are going to continue acting the way they've always acted. Always assume that people will act the same way that their ancestors have acted. Now you need to equip yourself to be able to respond accordingly, address those things, so that we're not living in a perpetual cycle. What's that saying about stupidity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, or something along those lines. Insanity, there you go. Insanity, stupidity, same thing.
Results. So it's just as you were mentioning about these AI clips with giants. They say they were in Kemet, lifting 500-ton blocks and stacking them. I'm like, whether they
your lines, I'm not sure if it's just me.
Eye, it can look.
Ben, you're cutting out, bro.
Yeah, you're cutting out, Ben. I've got a reconstruction of Tutankhamun on the screen. Once again, this is not my last one, but my last one is coming up, I think, in the next couple of images, or at least one of my latest ones. But then this was a meme again, just to do the comparison.
It irritates me so much. Yeah. That reconstruction irritates me so much.
Oh yeah.
Once again, just just for people to see, is this one of my favorite lines is I love Troy, by the way. That's one of my favorite movies. And there's a scene where the what's the guy, Agamemnon's brother is fighting Hector's brother over the girl Helena. I don't know if you're a Troy fan, you know what I'm talking about. So there's a scene where he's fighting him, and the brother's like, he's not really a fighter. So Agamemnon's brother like hits him to the ground, and he's crawling, and then he looks at the woman who's like left him for this weedy guy, and he's like, this is what you left me for. And it's such a great line.
I remember that.
You know that scene, yeah. That's what I think of when I look at this reconstruction of Tutankhamun. I'm like, this is what you're doubting Black Egypt for? This deformity? Like, are you serious? Like, have you not seen any of Tutankhamun's portraits? Like, seriously, this is absolutely ridiculous. Have you not seen his mummy? For goodness sake, none of this makes sense.
No, not at all. This cop doesn't even look. I mean, when I saw this remake or this rendition of what Tutankhamun looked like, they had about 3 different versions that I saw. One actually looked totally European, and then one literally had green skin. It was like olive.
Yeah. So you're talking about the ones that Hawass commissioned back in 2000 and I think it was 2008, where he commissioned those 3 teams. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I'm like, wow, they would go this. Well, I know they will go this far, but it's an ongoing battle, and I think.
You know what's interesting? In retrospect, the green one, when Hawass commissioned the 3 reconstructions, one of them, the one that's kind of like got the neutral tone, so they made it green, which I actually think is a good thing because it gets rid of the skin color. Looking at that one actually looks pretty African. In retrospect, you know, it actually looks pretty African, and I think that's why Hawass didn't give it any publicity. So it's like it got done for the sake of the, you know, what needed to be done, but he didn't give it any publicity beyond that. He only gave the other 2 any publicity because they looked Arab. And it's interesting because that team that made it green, when they analyzed the skull of Tutankhamun, they said, oh, this is an African. And then Hawass changed that to North African when he made his report.
Right.
They said African. And that's when, and then they came up with a reconstruction. They said, he looks African, possibly slightly mixed based on the features, obviously not being familiar with East African features when they said that, but they said he looks African. And then they created that reconstruction, which was kind of a greenish color, which actually, in retrospect, if you just look at the features, could pass for an African quite easily. And then Hawass changed their dialogue to say that they said North African, but they didn't say North African, they said African. So he's very, very sneaky, that guy. Very, very sneaky. Oh, Zahi Hawass. But yeah, so this is my getting close to my last reconstruction. Hey man. And I can't remember what these are for. Let's have a look. Is that I'm just seeing where I am on my thingy. I can't remember what this was for. There was a purpose for this, but I can't remember it. But I'm going to move on to this one. Now, this was quite an interesting little thing. Okay. Let me show you this next screen. Okay. And I'm going to ask you guys the question. I'm going to ask the question to everyone who's in the chat. What is the point that's being made here? Feel free to give some feedback.
Not human. There really were not. When I see these type of pictorials, whether in a book or in a movie, they're getting to the evolution of pre-Homo sapiens at the time when hominids.
Close. Quote, unquote, that's close, but no cigar. I'm putting the correct answer on the screen.
The racists are gonna have a field day with this one.
Yeah, no, this is not, and this is not to be insulting. The point is that baboons were mummified in ancient Egypt, yeah, using the same mummification process that humans were mummified, yeah.
Yeah.
The baboons' faces are lucidermic, i.e., I'm not saying it's a white person, but it's light, yeah. So it's got a pinkish, slightly pinkish brown complexion, yeah. the mummified corpse of the baboon has preserved, by and large, that color. Yeah. Yet when it comes to the ancient Egyptians, they'll tell you that the darkness of the skin of the corpse is due to the mummification compounds. Then why wasn't that universal? Why didn't that work? Why didn't we have that? Why are we not seeing the same phenomena on the baboon? The mummified baboon.
Very good point.
When you can see a pigmentation that is more fair or lighter than the African or the Egyptian.
Absolutely. This baboon has preserved very well, I think we'd agree. Yeah. Very well. This is, I think, from the Middle or New Kingdom, I can't remember, but it's preserved incredibly well. Yeah. It's preserved all of its features very well. And its skin color has not turned black.
Correct.
Just thought I'd throw that out there for those of you who claim, and by the way, I don't want to hear anyone making that claim about bitumen, because there's no bitumen in any of the dynastic mummification compounds. I've already done a study on that. I think I posted a short. I don't know if everyone's seen that, but there was absolutely no tar or bitumen in any of the ancient Egyptian mummification compounds that only got introduced in the late period by the Greco-Romans and forward from there, but not before. So yeah, just a thought for everyone. Okay. So that was the point I was making with that.
That was a perfect that's a perfect observation.
And well done to Bantu Beauties, quick off the mark like normal. All right, let's move on. Let me
we have to live in this. Well, this is what it is.
All right, let's I'll skip over that. This is all my more stuff, but I don't think any of these images alone is worth diving greatly into. I think I just grabbed these snapshots. I don't even know why they're in this program actually. This is all related to a short I did on the Moors. I don't know if you guys saw that, and it was just basically arguing that the Moors are not this. This was created by some crazed Arab-centric. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, some crazed Arab-centric idiot who tries to claim all African civilizations of note were Arab infused. He's trying to say that this is a Moor. So I simply presented pictures of actual Moors across museums and different things, and none of them looked like the Arabs he was presenting. But yeah, let's not go into that because we've done that topic to death. This was part of a live stream that I already presented as well, where I was introducing another reconstruction artist called Nydia, who I mentioned yesterday, who really provided me with a lot of motivation and direction in terms of my reconstruction work, because she just brought a different angle. Once again, very, very honest approach to reconstructions that she took. And I was able to take quite a lot from her. So I did a live stream. I was just kind of comparing our reconstructions of Ahmose Nefertari, which I thought were quite close. And the reason I thought that was quite interesting is because we used completely different busts. So I used this bust to make mine. She used this bust to make hers. And yeah, our approximated faces were quite close.
Very similar.
Well,
yeah.
Very.
So I thought that was very, that's always nice to have that kind of confluence, because then it just gives credibility to both of our approaches that we're coming up with. We use completely different modeling systems and coming up with similar results, which I thought was really interesting. This was just part of my Timbuktu documentary. So I'm going to skip through the next few images because they're just kind of like stills from my Timbuktu documentary, and I'm going to try and get to the next significant one. By the way, if you haven't watched have you guys watched my Timbuktu documentary?
No.
Oh man, disappointed, man.
Sorry.
Check it out,
I'm gonna
man.
get
It's
to it.
good,
I'm gonna
good.
get.
You need to get onto that. That's like some of my best work, and also it takes us out of Kemet as well, which is quite interesting. So please watch. One of the things, in fact, let me just go back really quickly. Then one of the things that I do touch on.
Wait,
in
no,
that
I think I have. I think I watched it when I was at my last job. I did.
Good
Yeah, I
man.
do recall. Yeah, I did watch it.
Good man. Good. Okay, cool. Good. I don't have to dive in too much. I was just going to say one of the things that I do touch on, which I think is probably worth just me mentioning, was the fact that people make the accusation about Africa having no original scripts. Oh, Africans couldn't write. Africans couldn't write.
Yeah. Oh,
Africa's got far more original scripts than Western Europe. In fact, Western Europe doesn't have a single original script. They've inherited every single writing script.
We
Whereas
have
Africa has.
writings. They just
So,
burn him. They just burn them. That's what they do. They invade and then they burn them. They burn the libraries, they burn the schools, they burn the universities. That's what they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even their Latin script that's used, and every script in Western Europe descends in some shape or form from the Latin script or the Greek script that descends from the ancient Egyptian hieractic script and the Phoenician Abjad. And the Phoenician Abjad descends directly from ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. So all of their writing systems can be traced directly to ancient Egypt. Yet within Africa itself, ancient Egyptian is not the only, or Medu Neter, I should say, is not the only original script we have. We have numerous original scripts, such as the Ge'ez script, Tiffanic script, the Insibidi script, and these are original scripts that don't all descend from the one. And this is where, they struggle trying to make those kind of accusations about the African continent, because clearly we had more access to and more desire to create scripts and write than Western Europe. That makes the accusation. And by the way, I don't think everyone does that. This was more a direct address to an idiot called Simon Webb, who I had to kind of address as well. So it was nothing to do. I think most Europeans wouldn't make such a stupid argument. So I'll just make that clear. I'm not gonna throw that accusation out and generalize and say everyone is as stupid as that moron. So there you go. This is my Jerry curled Amenhotep, which I think we saw yesterday, so I'm not going to dwell on that. This was a comparison of our Nefertiti's. So this is mine on the left and this is Nydia's on the right. And once again, the same as what I showed you before, we use completely different busts to come to our approximations. My one was based on the plaster cast, the mold of Nefertiti, and this one was based on one of her busts from Thutmose's workshop. So Nydia's one and my one side by side, I think they look quite similar once again, but we took completely different routes to get there, which I thought was quite interesting. And this is one of my final, I think this is my final young version of Tutankhamun that I'm really, really happy with. So this is where I'm at the moment for my youngest interpretation of Tutankhamun, and I'm very happy with it. And this is Nydia's one, which I have to say I did borrow a little bit because I loved the way she captured the fullness of the cheeks, which is something that I missed a lot when I was doing my reconstructions of Tutankhamun. I kept not being able to capture that, and I think she'd done a fantastic job doing that. And this is my version, so I'm really happy with where I'm at the moment. I haven't changed it for 6 months, which is like a record for me. So I guess I must be relatively happy.
Oh yeah, well done.
And this is her reconstruction of Amenhotep III, once again based on a completely different bust to the one that my one was kind of based on numerous busts, but this one in particular was based on the one that's hanging in the British Museum. And this one was based on I think it's a plaster cast mold actually. I'm not sure, but there's one that they're not 100% sure if it's Amenhotep III, but I just putting them side by side. I don't think they look that similar, but I just like to put them side by side and do a
Your
comparison.
one has a more West African phenotype to it, almost. Like I can see this like a Yoruba uncle or something.
I'd see, the thing about it is, ironically, I'd actually disagree.
Really?
Yeah, I actually think this looks like 100% Igbo. Yeah,
wow.
to me, this one here looks very Nigerian to me, but that could be me. And I
I
actually think
know.
my one looks more kind of like central. I'd go for more like Congolese, Central African.
I can see Congo. Okay, I can see Congo. I
Yeah,
can see Congo.
that's how kind of I felt. I thought my one kind of is more kind of Central African, drifting towards the Great Lakes region, whereas I feel this one is kind of like Igbo. But
Mm.
that's
The,
just my.
the
We can split
eyebrows,
hairs. We overlap a lot.
eyebrows and the eyes is definitely Congolese. They have that Congolese facial feature that I
Yeah.
see. But the one in the British Museum, I actually saw that. I think I have that in one of my files that was taken by a group of a tour that
Mm.
Dr. Kwesi took people to in that I think this was about 12, 15 years ago in the British
Mm.
Museum. And the woman, the tour guide in the museum told an African that this is Amenhotep III, but he doesn't have nothing to do with your people's lineage. In the museum,
Who said that?
the tour guide,
And
the
he
tour
was from
guide.
where?
Asa Kwesi is from the United States. He lives in Arizona. He's a premier. I mean, he's one of the elders of Egyptology, particularly in America. He studied under Sheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Yosef Ben Yatten, and J.A. Rogers.
Who did he say that to?
That the white woman that was the tour guide in the British Museum when he brought his group to give them a class on the Egyptian busts that were in the British Museum. When they got to the area where they have the bust of Amenhotep III,
Yeah.
she stated that even though he appears to be have African features, but he would, that has nothing to do with your people.
You know what I find hilarious about that? You said she was British, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, typical.
Yeah, I'm like, wow,
Typical.
really?
Like, I promise you, if I go through my comments, yeah, the most comments that I get from like dissenters in terms of my page who don't have any knowledge about the subject, but who are just indignant and angry that anyone would make the Egyptians black, always white British people. Always.
Correct. Oh.
I get them more than white Americans. I'm telling you right now. White British people have got this thing where they think when they speak, everyone must listen. Yeah. And that privilege goes right through. You could be a 13-year-old kid and he just thinks, oh, no, this is not good enough. You change it, sir. Shut up. It's like, and that's literally how they move. It's like, what do you think this is? This is the empire's dead. Yeah. Your views on African civilization, British curator, lady, whoever you are, your views are literally none and void. You have no, you're in Africa, know your place. That's what the response I would have given to her is. It's like, what the heck, man? Crazy people. Yeah.
You bro, you go to like, I don't know, one of these museums and like have a debate with one of these people, because I guarantee you'll be able to find them so easy. It'll make for such a good video because you have receipts on receipts. Like, I can't wait to see when they make shut up, bro. I can't wait for it.
I can't do it. I feel like when I've been to museums, I feel like they pick up on my energy. Like sometimes I'll see like a little tour guide going and I'll just linger and I'll just stand at the back. But then as soon as I'm there, I see them being very careful about how they choose their words. It's like they know they can pick up on they pick up on the energy. They're like, I'm not going there with this one.
It's kind of like they know that you came there to follow.
Yeah, they know they can just pick up on the energy. But yeah, so this was I'm not going to go through all of these because I've done this comparison before, but this is both of our interpretation of this bust, and I think they look really, really similar. I did show this yesterday and say I wasn't 100% happy with how it looks. I'm not happy with its how it translates yet. I've still got a bit of work to do, but I still thought it was quite cool that we approximated something so similar. That was a thank you. Wait a second. I know. Okay. I sometimes I miss donations and then I have to do thank yous afterwards in posts. This was Thuya. Now she done her reconstruction based on the mummy, and this was my reconstruction that was based on this statue. And actually, I've got a bit more to give there because I showed this yesterday. So I liked her reconstruction. Obviously, the only thing I would say is that mummies, I think I spoke yesterday about this at length, and I explained that mummies, you have to take them in context of the amount of distortion that's taken place on the face, whether or not the soft tissue is dropped, which happens quite a lot, and also the fact that you're never going to get a correct expression of fat and volume. And people need to understand there's no such thing. I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this to be rude, but there's no such thing as a fat skull. Okay. No overweight person's skeleton is different. An overweight person's skeleton is exactly the same as a skinny person's skeleton. Okay.
Right.
You don't get a skinny skeleton. All right. And it's the same thing with mummies. Okay. You don't get a fat mummy. You don't get a full mummy. So everyone is going to appear, exactly. Everyone is going to appear like they had slim, gaunt faces based on their mummy. Yeah. You're going to lose everything all of that volume that makes someone's facial structure present in a certain way is going to be lost in a mummy.
Yeah, the moisture.
So,
what part of the world are you gentlemen in?
UK.
Okay.
Canada.
Okay. Canada. Okay. My long lost brothers. Okay. I'm in the States.
What part?
I'm
I think
in
you said earlier.
California. I'm in California.
Cali. Okay, cool.
Cali.
Well, it's great to have you. Yeah, so I'm going to quickly just have a little bit of a dive on my Thuya. And the reason why is because I spoke about yesterday the fact that I struggled because I didn't, basically this is the only depiction I had of her. And in the ideal world, I'd like a more detailed depiction of her, and B, I would also like to see some other angles, you know. So I was very limited in what I had of her, but I was still confident. So I'm so confident in the accuracy of the ancient Egyptian artworks. I knew that I wanted to try my best to get close to this kind of circular face, which you can see I'm kind of getting there, but didn't quite have. I spoke about yesterday the fact that I filled out the kind of the top of her eyes to kind of get that. And obviously her cheeks have got this, she has this kind of like full but flat face that kind of like indents towards the inside. Basically there's a lot of like little details which I thought that they've done that deliberately. That's what her face looked like.
That's
the reason I'm rambling a little bit,
they're gonna say it's a wig. Sorry, I'm just looking at their hair and they're gonna say that's a wig. That's a wig.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're gonna say that.
They could argue it's a wig, because people use wigs to this day, but it's a wig with African hair.
There you go.
Is what it is. Call it what you want. Call it a wig, call it a real hair. We might not know, but the bottom line is it's an accentuation of an African hairstyle. And one of the things I wanted to show you really quickly is I found another representation of Thuya, and it kind of confirmed what I saw. So I'm just going to quickly pop that on the screen. This is when I went to the Vatican the other day. I didn't.
Face. Sorry, I was going
No,
to
go
you said. It does definitely have a very full face. You know, you did capture that a lot in the what's it called, the reconstruction. So
thank you. So let me quickly show you something. So this is basically where I kind of ended up with my Thuya at the moment. So
I see.
You can see it's kind of getting there. Now, this is where the justification comes in, because I went to the Louvre and I found a bust of her that I didn't really know existed. Now, I showed you this. Was anyone on my Louvre live stream? Anyone who's on the call at the moment? Any of you guys?
I was there.
Okay, cool. So you'll know that her nose has been replaced, unfortunately. Took a close-up of it, so you can see that is not her original nose. They've just cut it off. And that's why her nose looks different to the wooden bust.
Oh.
The wooden bust is her real nose. This nose is fake. But if you look at the way the rest of her features present, you'll see that they actually did a really good job on that statue, because you can see that same circular face presents. Yeah. Those cheeks, can you see the way? I mean, let me just put them side by side. Ignore the nose, ignoring the nose. Can you see that that's the same face?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same face.
Yeah, ignoring the nose. So this is why I was like, okay, so those, even on this little miniature statue, they did manage to nail her features really well. The only thing is they've now replaced the nose, so it's hard to see past that. But that is a completely fake nose. We shouldn't be giving this nose any of our attention. And I know it's hard to do, but we have to literally strike out of our mind because this is a Eurocentric fabrication. But her face still has that fullness, that flatness, and I feel like this, when I saw this, I felt better about this reconstruction. I was like, okay, they're quite close. The eyes could use a tiny bit of work, but they're almost the same. I could quickly resize that. The cheeks are identical. The lower part of the mouth is pretty much the same, just from a different angle. So I was really happy with the way this looked.
Oh yeah, good job.
King, can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I want to say with the reconstruction that you did, no, actually the one that you took the picture. Even with the nose that you said, like you could still tell that's an African woman. Because for me, what stood out immediately was the cheekbones. When you look deeply into the cheekbones, so it's like I don't know how to describe it, but there's like a poofiness. I don't know how to describe it with our cheekbones. Because I have certain relatives that have these high, like poofy cheekbones, and that's just what stood out to me.
Yeah, that fullness, that kind of fullness, that almost puffiness of the face. It's a very, very African trait. It's a very African trait, and it's normally complemented by a little bit of mild prognathism, which just makes to me, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I see it as well. So yeah, I was happy to see this statue, because obviously I can see once I see the nose is fake, I just ignore it and I no longer see it. And I looked at the rest of it and I was like, oh wow, that's Tuya. That is what they were showing us on this miniature wooden statue. They still managed to capture all of those features really well, and it shows that it wasn't just like made up. There's that, once again, that consistency that we get from Egyptian art. So yeah, I was quite happy with that. Moving on. This is one of Nydia's reconstructions. Now she did this reconstruction from the mummy.
Yeah, I can tell.
I placed this next to the statue, and I was like, you do not have to do a lot of work to get this to look like this. At least in my mind, as a reconstruction artist, I was like, I would relish working with Nydia on this one to get it to look like his statue, because obviously because you can just see the facial structure is the same. You can see it's there. The jawline, the very strongly prognathic, a lot of lower face prognathism, and the puffiness of the cheeks, which RJ just mentioned. All of that is still there on this statue. So I would love to work with her to kind of like make a single reconstruction that kind of encompasses everything. That would be amazing.
Yes, you can see that. I can see that even without the headdress. Just focusing on the eyebrows, the cheeks, and the forehead, identical.
Agree. I'm going to now move, and there's some more comparisons, but if you don't mind, like this is her Akhenaten and my Akhenaten. I'm gonna skip over them because I've done that in another video, and I know people will be interested to see this. This was when I was talking about how Zahi Hawass manipulated King Tutankhamun's skull to change his cephalic index. Once again, that's an in-depth subject that I'm not going to go into right now. Then this image, which I never shared, I thought I'd pull up because I wanted to show the phenotypic kind of continuity that you get between southern Sudan and some of the pharaonic lineage, one of them being Pepi, who gives me a very strong Sudanic feel on all of his statues.
King.
Yeah, go on.
Is that you know, when it comes to those African eyes, obviously you can see the same thing on the statue here.
Yeah.
Is that melanin that causes the eyes to have that almost, you know, that yellowish tint to it?
Indeed.
Okay.
And they will show it. They were very, very consistent in the portrayal or showing of someone with melanin in the eyes. They showed that quite a lot. Right. I showed this as a comparison. I mean, it's a shame they got rid of the nose of this one, but you can see how wide it was from where they've chiseled it. But just look at that depiction and look at this Southern Sudanese man. These are, to me, these are excellent comparisons. Yeah. So even a lot of people believe that certain phenotypes weren't a part of ancient Kemet, and
right.
I want to challenge that. You know,
that nose
it wasn't just it wasn't just the Cushitic types.
It just bugs me, even though I know the reason, but it just bugs me, the pattern, because you see a pattern of this throughout excavation of the bust, and sometimes whole statues of our ancestors. They go right for the nose.
Absolutely. I mean, the evidence is so strong. You can look at this and you can almost see the anger when they got rid of this nose, because we know what this must have looked like before this nose was chiseled, which to me kind of makes it a bit pointless, because kind of like you haven't made him look any less African by getting rid of this nose.
You can see the whip.
Yeah, all you've done is just ignited my my imagination about what he looked like. You know, that's all you've done. Amenemhet III. These are more comparison ones. I didn't want to do too many of these, but this is my Amenemhet III below, based on this bust. Yeah, go on.
You were just on the topic of there being different phenotypes. Could you elaborate that? Obviously, because
yeah.
Could you just carry on that topic, because I'm very interested in that, your viewpoint.
Yeah. So my viewpoint is that you know, when you look, there are themes in dynasties when it comes to the ancient Egyptians. There are familial themes you'll get, and I found phenotypically, you know, obviously all of these people are Egyptians, but then calling people Egyptians or Kemetic is like calling people, once again, like Nigerians. What does that mean? You know, there's so much diversity in terms of the tribes, and just like in ancient Kemet, you had 42 Sepats, 42 nomes, 42 tribes, in my opinion, you know, of people who likely spoke different dialects of the ancient Kemetic language and had different cultures and had lasting phenotypes. One of the examples I like to give was the fact that at the time of the ancient Greeks, the population of Dendera were known as being a pygmy population. Okay. Who was it? It's Pliny the Elder spoke about the fact that the short-statured Tentritai tribe, or the Denderans, would climb on the backs of the crocodiles and mount them, blah blah blah. But he made a point of saying that they were pygmies, and there's actually a statue in the British Museum of one of these Denderans on the back of a crocodile, and it's a pygmy. It's a short-statured person.
Wow.
So that's an entire nome Sepat. That's an entire Sepat, entire nome Dendera, which is in next to Luxor, I believe, in southern Egypt, which was inhabited by pygmy people, just like we have in modern day Congo and Rwanda, the Twa people. So a lot of people have this kind of monolithic idea of what ancient Egypt is, and try to say, what was the race of the ancient Egyptians, or what was the look? And it's to me, it's ridiculous, because any African population that spans a landmass that large, you're going to see huge amounts of variance, phenotypic and genotypic variance across those people. And I believe that's what you had in ancient Egypt. So for me, it doesn't surprise me that you'd get some pharaohs who present in this way, and then others who present in very strongly Cushitic looking phenotype, and then others who present maybe a more tropical look, and others who present a very elongated look. And I think we have evidence of that. I think the important thing is that we respect the artwork that we're presented with. We respect the way these pharaohs chose to present themselves. I think that is of paramount. So that's kind of my response there.
That's a good response.
Dr. J. Rogers' work, Sex and Race, in Volume 1, he refers to them as Hottentots and not pygmy.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's just one of the other names. There's, you can go through a cultural piece, and you have different phenotype features because of the influx of diversity and cultural exchange, and even even miscegenation can give you those different looks.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also just to note that, you know, we call them netters now, or gods, but remember, every single Egyptian quote unquote deity is based on an ancestor. So really what people have interpreted as gods was just them honoring ancestors. And we saw this happen in real time in ancient Egypt, where pharaohs and queens would become deified or join the pantheon of, you know, people that would be honored. You know, we see that real time with Amos Nefertari, who we know was honored in tombs 300, 400 years after she had passed as an ancestor to venerate. So ancestral veneration is what you're looking at when you look at the walls of ancient Kemet. You're looking at all of these people, Osiris, all of these people that we now call them deities. They were actual real people, or at least to the ancient Egyptians, they believed that these were their real ancestors who had lived at some point. Now, the reason I mention that is that we have Bes, who was a short-statured ancestor, and we have Ptah, who was also a short-statured ancestor. So we actually have people within their ancestry, so to speak, who were clearly short-statured, were pygmies or Hottentot, or whatever you would call them. So we have to understand that to the ancient Egyptians, they understood that as part of their story. But yeah, sorry, go on.
The birth of Khufu, he was said to be short stature, had a short stature during his reign as the first dynastic pharaoh.
Did you say Khufu?
Khufu.
Oh, that's very interesting. Very interesting.
That he was short in stature. But
That's
he was
very
revered by the Egyptian people.
That's very interesting.
I want to add to when you were talking about the Egyptian gods and how they're basically ancestors, and this is also, you can see this in Yoruba culture as well, because Shango, right? The god of thunder. He is said that he was a king. Shango was a king before he became an Orisha. So that consistency is something that you also see throughout the continent. I just wanted to add that.
No, I think that's a very, very good point. And I think it's something that even it's something that dawned on me recently, and I need a kind of a shift in my paradigm, my way of thinking, because obviously we consume the Western interpretation of Kemet, but then over time we should be reinterpreting it for what it is. When we see the reflection of Kemetic practices on the continent of Africa amongst other Africans, we should be asking and questioning what their perspective is, because it's likely they've got a closer perspective to what the ancient Kemetics do than these Egyptologists who just read books which were likely written by other racist Egyptologists and come with their kind of very disconnected patriarchal interpretation of
give me all the
ancient Kemetic beliefs.
You bitch ass nigga.
Let me just put you on mute, bro. You're talking something, bro. I don't know who that is. That's worse than me yesterday, man.
sorry. That was my brother, man. So that was my little brother. He came. I'm in the basement. Sorry, that was my brother.
You better get him under control, man. What's going on? What is going on?
Sorry about that.
You better just do what he's asking, man. You need to come off the stream. Sounds like he's got a job for you. Sorry. Oh man, sorry. Let's go. Let's move on. So that brings me to this is some, I'm not sure if you guys saw this. Bro was getting too grow, put that child to bed, he said. So oh man, I knew this was gonna be a funny one. All right. So this was a restoration of a statue. I think this is only the second time I did this. I did this with Amos Nefertari statue, which you guys looked at earlier. I may not have mentioned the fact that I had restored what was broken there. So I've always wanted to do that with the head of Nefertem and restore the color to what I believe it should be based on the parts that were faded and the original color. And so for me, this was really, really fun task to do because it just allowed me to see the bust. I tried to do it literally like for like, exactly as it was, not change anything, but just restore the color where I believe the color should be. And then when I was finished, I was very satisfied that I was looking at a very handsome young African boy. But yeah, this actually took me much longer than my normal reconstructions do. This is actually a really difficult job to do, but also it's one that a couple of people had recommended that I do. So I just really enjoyed it. Also, actually, on that note, whilst I got you on the head shape, I've kind of maintained that the head shape that people say, oh, you know, it's a head deformation, it's XYZ. I've always believed it was an expression of kind of that Urugori style that you see in Rwanda where the hair is shaped. But I also believe sometimes they shape the head so they could place a crown on top of it and the crown would stay in place. I believe that was also part of the motivation as well. So I did both approaches. So first of all, I showed it with a crown on, which I believe probably would have been the end game for this. But then I also showed with the hair line and the hair kind of extending out to the back. So this is kind of my two interpretations. I also did do a bold version as well. But yeah, that was just kind of like one of the things I wanted to show there. Oh, and I also did send this to, okay, so this is also just a depiction of that restored art against King Tut's existing art. So you can see how consistently it runs with his other art. And actually you can see now, it would be very hard to argue that that's not the same person. That clearly just looks like a boyish or childish version of this. To me anyway, I think they look like exactly the same person. And then that allowed me to be really confident that I was along the right lines with this, this is kind of like my final reconstruction of Tut, which I feel just does a good job at unifying all of his depictions.
The jawline is consistent throughout all four of them. So the way the way that the chin protrudes forward a bit, like, and it's not like a jagged shoreline, but it's kind of like rounded almost. So like, yeah, it's consistent. I see consistency.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm very, like I said, I'm quite happy with this, which is my final reconstruction so far of Tut, at least at a young age. This is a young Tut. It looks about 8 years old or something, but it feels like it sits quite nice in with those. And then I sent this to Nydia because this was Nydia's reconstruction of the head of Nefertem, and I showed her my restored head of Nefertem just to do a side-by-side comparison. I was like, yeah, I think I think you did a good job there.
Very close. Yeah,
yeah,
very close.
Yeah. So I was really, yeah. And then this is just a few more. I put it against Akhenaten's kids. These are the Amarna princesses. And it just felt like it was a part of the family when I put it alongside these as well. So I was quite happy with that. So these would have been either siblings or cousins, depending on who you believe. No, siblings or aunts. No, siblings or nieces. Siblings or nieces, depending on who you think Tut is. Because some people believe Tut was Akhenaten's sibling as opposed to son. But yeah. This was just this was just a kind of a gathering of non-sabotaged coffin lids in a naturalistic form. And by the way, I need to stress this as well. Coffin lids only really come in two variations. Okay, and these are the ones from the dynastic era. They either come in this deep brown color, which I believe is naturalistic, or you'll see ones that are yellow. Now, to be clear, the ones that are yellow aren't yellow because the person is yellow. It's either two things. They were either formerly gilded and the gold was stolen, which is very, very common. In fact, that's the most common thing that's happened. Or they would simply paint it a tone of yellow because they weren't rich enough to have the coffin gilded, which means covered in gold, basically. That's the only two things. So it's either yellow or brown, or gold or brown. That's it. You won't see this kind of like creamy, woody, kind of like, oh yeah, naturalistic Arab color. You don't see it on the coffins, not the ancient Kemetic ones anyway. So they like to make a big deal and obviously do their restoration work, rub down. I'm going to show you an example of a rub down here. This is a rub down version. Okay, I've got a short where I showed. Basically, you can see the brown is restored. By the way, this is my restoration. So this is not, to be clear, this image doesn't exist. Okay, I have to make that very clear. I did this as a way of restoring what I thought had been lost, because I shared a short where I showed close-ups of this, and you can see the original brown is all along the eyelids, and they've basically cleaned it to make it look like this is the natural color. So seeing that they had cleaned it, I decided as another restoration project to actually put the original brown tone back to the statue. So that's what you're seeing here, just to be clear.
It's like they took the natural wood tone, like, and then sanded it almost, like, you know, they sanded off the color.
Exactly, that's exactly what they do. I think someone mentioned to me they use sandblasters quite a lot in just to get rid of the quote unquote dirt.
Oh wow.
You know, they call the ancient Egyptians, you know, they call it dirt. All right, that brings me on to Khafre's nose, which I'm sure you guys are aware of the controversy. I think I mentioned it yesterday. His nose had been replaced. And I did a short just so you can see it from the top view there. This is one of the most obvious views. You can see he's forgone or undergone one of those very famous ancient Egyptian nose jobs. It's probably one of the best ones, which is why it's gone undetected for so many years. But I'm sure if you've been on my channel long enough, you know that they don't go declaring that they've replaced the nose.
They just replace it.
Ever. They just replace it. Just like I've probably shown on this channel now, I probably think in the region of 100+ nose replacements in various museums across the world. And not once have they ever mentioned that they've replaced the nose. Not once. I've had to show you, just like I showed you with Tuya's nose there. There was nothing on the plaque saying the nose was replaced in, 1896 or 1912. They don't say that. They just replace it. This is the disgusting world of Egyptology that we live in, where they can just replace parts of a statue to their own image and not have to mention it to anyone. So anyway, this is the short that has basically showed you very clearly. You can see like this is a really good image, very clearly, where you can see the nose has been replaced. And one of the reasons why I was able to verify the nose has been placed, because this nose that they gave to Khafre is completely different to the noses of Khafre, which are very consistent. You can see it's a very soft, round-tipped nose.
I think the reason why that one's
Very
been undetected for so long is because they didn't chip it from the base of the nose, from like the top. What's it called? They did it halfway through, so like they changed the tip where the soft tip is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I actually restored the nose to what it would look like. I want to show you guys that actually, because I never shared that with the community. And you can kind of do a comparison as to how much impact it has. So actually, let me scroll back to show you the faked nose. Here, I'm going to zoom into this one, and I'm going to show you what it would look like. And I did the restoration based by basically overlaying his statue with one of his other statues and doing a complete tracing of his nose. So this isn't just my imagination. I'm just going to quickly pop this on the screen so you can see what his restored nose would look like, and then come to your own conclusion as to whether or not it has a large impact on his phenotype. So there's his restored nose. I'm just going to put that side by side. I'm gonna shrink this. So I'm gonna put them side by side so you guys can see both of them at the same time. So there's his restored nose. What do you think? Is there a big impact there?
For
Oh
sure.
yeah. The features stand out differently when you're looking at them in that with a side by side comparison.
And to be clear, just so you know that I didn't make that nose up, I just want you to have a look at his statue over here. This is CG41. I think this statue is called CG41, and you can see that I did literally a like for like replication of that nose and put it on here. So
As
that's
I've
what
said-
Caffrey's nose should have looked like on this statue.
As I've said, no reach is needed. Like, no reach is needed at all. You can look at the other statues and there's an immediate comparison. So even if you were to look at the one with the one that they replaced the nose on, I would still say that even looks like an African man regardless. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Agree. This is the thing. This could easily pass for an African man. Easily. There are lots of people in Africa who have this exact profile. But the fact that they feel the need to do, and this is the thing, why is it that we've only heard, if people say Caffrey, no one's seen these statues of Caffrey. This statue of Caffrey is a full, undamaged from head to toe. This is CG15. CG15. This statue is a full, life-sized, undamaged Granny Diorite statue of Caffrey. And no one's seen it. It's sitting in the basement, I think, in Luxor Museum or something like that, and they'll never take it out. As long as Caffrey Enthroned is around, the one where they know they've replaced the nose, that's the only one that will ever be on display. They don't want to show you this one because this one, as you'll see from my reconstruction, is a very African man.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a indisputably African man.
Yeah, that's right on point. Right there.
And that's why they'll never bring this to the public's eye. But yeah, so anyway, that's Caffrey Enthroned nose.
With these ones that they keep in the bottom of the museum, do you ever see them, doing the same thing that they've done to the ones that they've showed to the public? Do you like say with that one that you just showed there, the one that's at the bottom of the, I can't remember what museum you called it, but do you ever see them doing the exact same thing? Trying to.
Well, nothing's protected. Professor Ampim said he's seen people tampering artworks right in front of him. Members of the public, uncovered Egyptian artworks. They'll go past one that's got a round nose, they don't like it, and they'll just start rubbing it with their arm.
Oh, wow.
And it's rife in Egypt. So yes, I think everything is at threat. So really, we have to capture as much as we can because everything is under threat. Nothing is safe in Egypt, especially with how nothing's safe and nothing's sacred, especially with how what's the word, fanatical modern Egyptians are about this. It's my uncle, my auntie, my granddad. Like when you're talking like that, that's a fanatic. I'm sorry, I know we're making a joke out of it, but that's very fanatical talk. They're very much being indoctrinated to we have to protect Egypt. It's like, against what? You don't have to protect Egypt against it. If you knew it was true, you wouldn't have to protect it against anything. If the Chinese suddenly came along, and they were like, we were the Obers, and then you'd go to Chinese websites in China and they were talking about they established the Yoruba civilization, I don't think black people would care. We'd just carry on doing what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't have to, Yoruba for Yorubas, and I just don't think that would happen. We just keep it moving. It's like you lot are ridiculous. No one believes you, and your argument's stupid. They know they can't do that with us. They know that it's the truth, and this is why it bothers them so much, because they have to. It takes a lot more effort to maintain a lie than it does to just say what's true.
100%.
Okay, gentlemen, it was a joy speaking with you guys. A lot of good points, and also images brought up. I have to take off now.
Take care, sir. It's a pleasure having you.
Nice speaking.
Okay, I'll be back. Likewise to everyone that's in the room, and I'll try to catch you again.
Thank you. Take care. Cheers.
Okay. Be safe.
Well, you know what I was showing here. This is just a depiction of Queen Rosalie Gikanda, of last Queen of Rwanda, and a comparison of Tutankhamun, which you guys have seen probably many times. Showing, I did this to show, look, this is where his skull would have fallen roughly inside here. Obviously, he's a child here, so the skull's slightly changed, but this is where his skull would have roughly fallen. So you already know that all of that up there has to be hair based on that. Okay, we can't have it both ways. It can't be a deformed skull and also this is a skull and it doesn't fit. So this is why my hair hypothesis remains. I am convinced that this was a depiction of Urugori, or pulled hair in the form of a crown, as shown amongst the Rwandans.
And this is kind of unrelated, but what do you think about? Because I've been seeing a lot of Europeans coming up with this. The Egyptians were Anunnaki, and that's why they had elongated heads. What do you think about that nonsense? Because they don't want to admit that these are obviously, you know, what's it called, haircuts and hairstyles. They want to blame it on them, it being their actual skull shape, you know, it being their actual way that they were depicted in life. What do you think about that? Because I it's just stupid to me.
Evidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could say anything, you know. The ancient Egyptians were actually, you know, cattle that used to transform when they touched the Egyptians. So that's like, you either provide evidence or I just ignore you, you know. That's all it is. So I'd ignore stupid arguments like that because they have no evidence for them. We have evidence for all of the points that we make, and so therefore we can just ignore stupid people, which is what they are. Moors. Oh, we're getting late in the year now because this is following my response to Metatron, which was the Cantigas de Santa Maria. I have 4 more videos to come, and I know people are waiting for them. They are on the way, but these are the 4 videos: Moors in portraiture, etymologies, heraldry, and Berbers. And if you're upset that I'm a little bit late producing that, blame Trill Black, because his response to Metatron was so good that it made me lazy. And he's gonna be vexed that I said that. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, okay, in time. I got other things to do. When I see someone do a really good response, I kind of like, well, I could do a response, but I'll just be repeating a lot of your really well-made points. Right. So if you haven't seen Trill Black's response to Metatron's Moors video, my advice to you is to give it a watch. Okay, give it a watch, because he's done a very good job addressing Metatron's point. And watch my one while you're at it if you want to, or at least part 1. I just watched an Ira video of his today. I'm not sure what that means. This was just me depicting once again these continuities between Africans. These are Benin people, the men of Benin, and you can see their outfit. This is a statue on top of the British Museum. I'm not going to go into that right now because that's a much deeper rabbit hole to go down, but I've showed you these are my reconstruction. I did a side-by-side there. Once again, Catherine Thrones knows how it should be, and the one they replaced it with. I do wonder about the pathology of these Egyptologists, man. Just the fact that do you know how many noses they've created?
It's insane. Like, it's actually an
doesn't
obsession.
It make you think? Yeah, doesn't it make you think? Like,
I was literally having the same thought earlier this live stream. Like, I can imagine them like being in a room just recreating noses like day in and day out. Like, that's insane. That's crazy to me. Like, it's an obsession.
It is. It's mad. It's mad that they do that. Thank you, Nerd Large. It's literally deranged. It's deranged behavior. You know, to go out and this is not an easy job to do. You know, some of these nose replacements, like I showed you guys when I was in the Vatican, are such fine work. You know, it wasn't easy to do. And we're talking about materials, hard materials like granite here and quartz. You know, so anyway, I can't fathom.
It's maddening. It's
behavior.
crazy.
It's wild.
And
Yeah,
you know
so
they
this is
didn't get
gone.
it. Sorry, oh yeah, you
No,
know
go,
they
you
didn't
go.
like they wouldn't get the noses right on like the first time. So like they would have to do several attempts of making this one nose for this one statue and then move on to an. It's scary. I'm just thinking about it, like the obsession. How? Like,
Yeah, it's
yo,
crazy. No, it's the right question again. Like how, how the amount and the people that have to employ to do that as well. You know, just to have artists on tap to be able to replace noses but then that's what makes that's what makes me very convinced that what's being hidden is so much larger than we could even ever comprehend.
oh yeah,
You know,
without a shadow of a doubt. Like,
there's bigger fish to fry here. This isn't just this is a deliberate, concerted, and consistent effort to falsify or not even falsify, to create a new narrative.
yeah, it's bigger than we
That's
can
what it
imagine.
is. Yeah, there's something going on there. It's mad. It's mad. This was one of Nydia's reconstructions, and it was based on the mummy of Tutankhamun. So she reconstructed the mummy, and then I wanted to show her this sentinel statue of Tutankhamun, which looks identical. You know, she didn't reference this when she made this. She made this reconstruction from the mummy, and I wanted to show her this because I was like, that's scary alike, you know. So really fantastic work there. RJ, are you back yet? Is your little brother giving you?
No. I've been in a quiet space a long time. I'm just listening. Yeah, he came out of nowhere.
Like, he was getting G-checked, like, yo.
He's tapping your pockets when he said that. He sounds serious. But you know what's good? I'm glad that happened because it takes some of the heat off me yesterday. That's literally how I felt yesterday. I was like, no, I gotta go. I was like, I gotta go. I can't even right now. I'm not even in a mental space to recover from this. So yeah, thank God for you, man. Let's keep moving. So I can't remember what I was doing here, so I'm gonna skip over. But that's one of Zahi Hawass's reconstructions that he sanctioned. This one I did this as a post. So this is Thutmose 1, 2, and 3, I believe, and Thutmose the third over here again. And I was just doing a comparison to show people that I found a single image. I think these are Samburu people, and I found every single head shape on display. So for people trying to, mystify the ancient Egyptian heads, that's an identical head shape. That's an identical head shape. And that's an identical head shape in one picture, an entire lineage. And this is this kind of touches on what I was speaking about earlier, about the fact that you see within dynasties and lineages, you see these themes come up. The Thutmoside lineage and Kenyans, for instance, is very strong, really, really strong. There's a really strong phenotypic consistency between the Thutmoside lineage and Kenyans. Okay, but then you have Tutankhamun's lineage, or the Akhenaten lineage, whatever you want to call it, the Amarna lineage, which I think has quite a strong Cushitic leaning. But then you have the fourth dynasty, Old Kingdom, which has a very tropical African leaning. Most of my reconstructions in that area have come out looking, people would say, Central West African, or the people in East Africa who possess that phenotype, that kind of like tropical leaning phenotype. It's all depends on the different dynasties about which kind of phenotype presents itself. But yeah, it was good for me to actually see a single image where you can have every single skull shape represented. I mean, that says 1,000 words to me,
It's amazing. It's undeniable too. It's just like, I mean, that previous image that you showed, I was laughing to myself because it's like, as you said earlier, they're trying to fit European and Arabic features on a clearly African skull, and it just
absolutely.
it's terrible.
King, I
Absolutely.
gotta say this, and it's so, and I find it so interesting, and this is what I love about the continent of Africa is that, as you're talking about the diversity, in my local church, there's a singer, one of the singers that I know, she's quite new, but but not that new. So she's from Uganda, and before I asked where she was from, one
Mm,
Sunday, I always thought she looked Somalian because she had
mm,
that face that looks like Eritreans, Ethiopian, Somalis have, right?
yeah.
And when I asked where I asked her where she was from, she said, "Oh, I'm from Uganda." I was like, "What?" I was very shocked because the way, even this is what the Western media portrays. They portray
Mm,
like Ugandans like the as like these kind of like, even though Uganda and Rwanda are in Central Africa, they portray them
mm,
as like these like the standard like people who look like me, phenotypically look like me, and like the broad nose and the big lips. And when I looked at the sister, I was like, "You look Somalian." It's crazy.
um, it's a very good point, and I want to add to this. I want to add this: the Great Lakes region of Africa is one of the most, or perhaps the most, phenotypically diverse place on the planet. It's very similar to Nigeria, but Nigeria's phenotypic diversity, I believe, is the result of multiple migrations. So Nigeria has got loads and loads of diversity, but I believe that's because people have just always been moving in and around out and around Nigeria. Lots of people have moved in and out and around it. Whereas the Great Lakes region, that is like the source place for many different phenotypes that you see around the world. So that phenotype that woman had, that's the origin point for it. And then it flowered out from there to the different regions, to the what we call the Cushitic phenotype and tropical phenotype. It all started in the Great Lakes region. That's your ground zero for humanity, by the way. That's been proven. Yeah, Great Lakes of Africa is where it all began, and so it makes sense that that's where you get all of that phenotypic, physical diversity. But that look that she had is very, very, very common and very typical. I'm actually working on a short at the moment. People don't realize that you don't need to go any further than the Great Lakes region, and you will have every single phenotype representing the ancient Kemet represented. I used to travel all over the African continent when I did my reconstructions. I rarely ever reference anywhere but the Great Lakes region now, to be clear, because the phenotypic variance and the strength of matching between that region of Africa and the ancient Egyptians is so strong. It doesn't make sense me doing anything else or going anywhere else. So I'm not surprised that that's what you saw. You see it all in that region. It's one of the best kept secrets about Africa is the amazing sights you'd see on a visit to the Great Lakes region. In terms of the people there, they are very, very diverse.
Wow.
Incredibly. On our forum, as Jar is very well know, we have got a few members who are from that region. We're constantly in dialogue, asking each other's questions, learning from each other. We have a really, really good discussion about those things. But that's where it all is. I have one of the things that I wanted to share is I believe the Great Lakes region is Punt, or what we call Punt. Punt is not pronounced Punt in my view. It's pronounced Pawunta or Pawunti. So it's PWNT, and the W can be exchanged for an R often. So you can have, and the P will also often get in when you get Bantu translation. The P is often exchanged for a BU. So Pawunti can become Burundi or Rwanda. All of these places that exist in the Great Lakes can be easily translated to Punt or Pawunta easily. And I believe that's why, I believe etymologically that's where a lot of those names have their root. So you have but long story short is Burundi, Rwanda, Buganda, Luanda, all of those regions I believe have their origin in that terminology of Puwunta. And they're all in the Great Lakes region.
That's gonna irritate the Somalians. They're gonna, like,
yeah, no, because they have to understand Puntland in Somalia came after the fact. The name of that region came after the fact. I don't believe it's Somalia, but that's not to say Somalians don't have a connection. Like I said, they inherited their Cushitic phenotype from the Great Lakes region, so it's not, it's not cutting them out. But I think the evidence leans towards Punt being the Great Lakes region, and there's lots of things to suggest that as well.
You already got somebody in chat saying that it irritates them. They've already been summoned.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It shouldn't irritate them. It shouldn't irritate them. We all descend from humanity descends from the Great Lakes region, so it's all good, But Punt makes it all Puwunta. I don't call it Punt anymore because I don't believe it's pronounced thing. I think Puwunta is the Great Lakes region. And yeah, I want to do. I've got some more work to do there, but I think there's a strong argument there. Reconstruction of. Does anyone know who this is? I think I released this reconstruction only as a community post at the moment. I want to see if anyone can recognize this fella.
No, I think that's a different one. Was it the guy with the red? No. I think it is a different leader. Is it the one with the red hat? The red hat.
I think you're thinking of Mentehote at the second.
Yeah.
Not, but yeah, it's not. Someone said that it looks Nigerian. Well, yeah, I think this whole dynasty, and not because I tried to make them look it, but this entire dynasty came out looking very much of that ilk. And I'm going to reveal who it is. This is Menkaure. Okay, so this is my first attempt at reconstructing Menkaure. You can see his various busts there. Got very, very, it's got a very clearly African face, obviously, Menkaure. I just want to show a few variations so you can see the features. And I did a lot of work face matching Menkaure. So the next few images are just going to be different views of Menkaure. Oh, by the way, this was to show Menkaure, one of Menkaure's statues when it was found versus now, and it looks like it's had a bit of tampering.
Yeah,
it just looks like the features present slightly different, very subtle tampering. It's the same thing with his wife here, how it was found versus how it is now.
Yeah,
it's very subtle. Yeah, very subtle pointing of the nose has taken place. So out of all of Menkaure's busts, I didn't use this one because I felt like it had been tampered slightly. Still looks like an African to me, but I just don't like the fact that it's been tampered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I skipped over that. These are some views of Menkaure's. This is front view. Okay. See with the feature matching. I think a lot of people were surprised with how he looked. And I think I was somewhat surprised, but then at the same time, I was like, well, how he looks is how he looks, man. Deal with it. And he's actually got, I started working with different weights as well, because he's got a very overweight bust that I want to show you. Not very overweight, but quite a wide faced one. So I did another bust where his face was a bit wider. So you can see front view versus side view there. So this is the one where his face looks pretty wide. And I just mimicked that.
Right.
I think people were slightly upset by his final appearance, but I did that view to show that I'm not exaggerating anything. Because people are like, why does it look so African? I'm like, well, maybe. Sorry, man. Sorry, dudes. I don't know how else you're gonna approximate this face, by the way. If you don't, I mean, I don't know. Go figure. So this is front view versus side view here.
He looks mightily Aryan to me.
Someone actually pointed out that I've made the lips thinner, and I was like, well, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't matter. I mean, I didn't think so. I think I matched quite well, but either which way, very African face. You don't realize, by the way, how broad the lips are of the Fourth Dynasty, because they broaden their mouths quite a lot in their expression. But what you have to understand is, to have your mouth that broad and to retain that level of thickness, it actually only shows in the reconstruction that you have to have quite thick lips to be able to do that, especially with that front protrusion that they show. I'm sure that explanation I gave you was really crap, but the point is, if the mouth is wide and still retains quite a lot, like, give yourself a smile right now and you'll notice that your lips will thin out.
Yeah.
So that's the point I'm trying to make. So their mouths, the pose that they are pulling in the statue requires a widening of the mouth. You can see how wide their mouth is in comparison to their nose.
Yeah.
And for it to retain that level of thickness means that if their mouth was in a less kind of stretched pose, they would have quite protruding lips. And this is why, even though I've matched it directly, it still presents as quite very African. It's a subtle thing that your brain picks up, but your eyes not necessarily are seeing, if that makes sense.
Right.
Let me carry on. So there you go. That's him with his fuller faced reconstructions. You can see that one from sideways. Looks like anyone's uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I actually think I do some improvement on these. I did a lot of work on Menkaure. I kept going back and forth and back and forth. So this is getting closer to my final version. I sent this to Nydia. This is her reconstruction of Queen T based on her mummy, and this is a YouTuber, South African YouTuber, who I thought it just looked like an older version of her. Thought this looked really similar. Don't know if you can see that as well.
I can see.
And then this is another of Nydia's reconstruction. So this is who is it? The mummy. You'll recognize the mummy from the hair.
Yeah, I can tell by. Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to remember her. Lady Rai. This is Lady Rai, Lady Rai's mummy, and this is a Sudanese comedian called Zainab Johnson, who I was like, oh my god, that's Zainab Johnson. So I sent that to Nydia as well. Well, that's the same woman, which is crazy. Menkaure again, slightly different kind of side view, but still the same. And this one I really liked because you could see this and this to me is that I thought, yeah, there you go. That's the same face there. Now I know that's going to upset people, but that, I mean, tell me how I could have been closer.
It looks like someone I went to school with.
It's crazy because I wasn't expecting Menkaure to look like this. I'm going to be totally honest with you, but he did. And I'm not going to change it to make people, to make people, comfortable. This is what they look like, These are the features as they are represented. Now, this is Jedefri, and I really enjoyed doing this one because I'd planned to do it for a long time, and people were very shocked at the way this came up. This is another example of what I was talking about the mouth. Can you see the amount his mouth protrudes?
Yeah.
But his mouth is very wide. So when I did the reconstruction, people were shocked at how it looked, but I was like, I haven't changed anything. Look carefully. This is exactly what you're looking at. The features are exactly the same. The nose I did based on what the width I could see based on where it had been fractured. And then I gave him the same nose as his lineage. So this is exactly the same nose that you see on Khafre and Menkaure. I just literally transferred the same nose.
Someone pointed out in chat, it looks like that TikToker Kabi Lame. It
looks absolutely. Yes.
Crazy.
Exactly. It does look like him. And if you look at the lips, Kabi Lame's mouth, he's got a very wide mouth.
Wide mouth, yeah.
Exactly. It's the same phenomena that you see here. And this is why it's a wide protruding mouth So I made sure that all of the contours, this is one of the things that I learned from, like I said earlier, looking at Nidia's, I made sure all of the contours of the face I completely matched. So if you look at the next version of it, that's a good side by side there. You don't realize how African, they thought they did a good job hiding how African this skull is, but you can't. This is a very African skull, Jadefri. Very, very African. And if you have a look, I think there's a good kind of like side split view that I want to get to show you. This one here. I want to show you this view, or even there's a better one here.
Yeah, you're not reaching. No reach.
Just to be very, very clear that I haven't tampered with any of his features there. Nothing's changed. Nothing's become thicker. If it looks like an African, it's because it's an African. Right. Okay. You can't translate these features any other way. You feel free to, but what you'll find with the Eurocentrics is that they'll hide the prognathism, they'll hide the protrusion of the lips. So they'll basically stencil the shape of the mouth, but they won't obey any of the contours of the face. Have a look at this and look at this and tell me if I've changed any of the contours of his face.
Nope. Nothing changed.
Yes, everything's exactly the same. So he just looks that way because he looks that way. And this is the family. So we have Jadefri, Menkaure, Khafre. I can't remember what order they go in. Feel free. Once again, just showing very clearly that I did not change any of Khafre's features. Sorry, Menkaure's features. I think I should lower the eyebrow just slightly. But other than that, you can see that's...
Yep. I like the detail you added with the little bit of melanin in the eye. That was good.
Yeah. I think it's necessary. Just a comparison, you know what I was showing there once again, but this is Queen Nefertiti's. And I actually I think I did a reconstruction of Nefertiti where I showed her with that hairstyle for a short that I produced. So this is getting into very late in the year now, so we're coming to a close soon. Nefertiti's bust, and this is my reconstruction based on this bust.
Yeah, yours looks very similar to what's it called, Nidia's, the one that you showed earlier. The one that you did side by side. It looks very familiar.
But I wanted to do, this is actually a remake of a reconstruction that I did earlier. But I just made very, very slight updates and adjustments because I wanted it to really 100% match this, because this is her plaster cast. So literally every feature at this point now is pretty much identical. So I'm very comfortable that this is a good representation of Nefertiti's face. I have some other angles of it, I think. And then there's my three queens, which is now four because I've added Hatshepsut, but these are my three queens at this point of the 18th dynasty, being Amos, Nefertari, Queen T, and Nefertiti.
Undeniably African, that's for sure.
I was very happy with these. Queen T against their statues. Amos Nefertari against their statues. By the way, I've updated only slightly my reconstruction of Amos Nefertari, although I'm quite happy with this one. Just little slight changes I've made to it, but that's against their statues. You can see there every effort to match the features. And then Nefertiti against their statues.
Yeah, that's good.
Boom. Updated Menkaure's, which I kept changing. Oh, sorry, Mentuhotep, sorry. So this is Mentu or Montuhotep or Muntuhotep. This is my updated reconstructions of him, which I've made slight adjustments to. I do get into my addicted kind of like tweaking mode where I keep tweaking. I've still got a little bit more to do because you know what? I looked at my reconstruction of Mentuhotep and I was happy with everything other than the width of the face is a bit too narrow. I realized when I overlaid. So I've got a little bit of widening of the face to do. So I'm not quite got the face wide enough yet to match Mentuhotep statue. But other than that, everything else here I was quite happy with.
I remember you saying something about the reason why his skin was dark is because he went on a long campaign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Because like I said, you've got both. I'm gonna quickly show you. You've got both tones. So you've got the reddish brown tone. Okay, this one I already said is kind of a tampered photo, so it's not the best. But the reddish brown tone is there. But then you also have the pitch black tone, which is here.
Right.
And actually, yeah, he could have been darker than that. This is slightly lighter than how I did it before. And I just noted that there's not a hop, skip, and a jump between getting from here to here, particularly as a Black African. And he did have a lengthy campaign as part of his in the Sahara, as part of his rule. And I think that this might have been at a tail end. You know, he's come back, licked with the melanin, got lick up, and this is how he ended up looking. You know, so I think it's very, very plausible that could be the case. There was also the possibility it could be an Osirian depiction, but my problem with it being the Osirian hypothesis is there's nothing Osirian about this depiction. That's what kind of made me say, well, if it was Osirian, then he needs some of the regalia of Osiris for us to say that it's Osirian, but he hasn't got any of that. He wouldn't just be portrayed in his natural kind of like everyday, you know, crown of, you know, the Deshret crown and a white robe, and then say, oh yeah, this is an Osirian pose. Like there's nothing to suggest it. So that's why I'm like, well, we have to then lean on the fact that this is a naturalistic portrait. So these are some slight updates I made to it. There's very slight subtle changes each time, which you probably won't pick up. But this is what I do. I tweak and then compare, tweak, compare, tweak, compare. So this is welcome to my neurotic world. If you look at this one, you know what's actually funny? Whenever I looked at this statue, I always saw an Igbo man. Yeah,
really.
I saw this statue here just looks really Igbo to me. You can't see that.
I can see a bit. I can see a bit. Yeah.
This statue to me looks super Igbo. And then I made this reconstruction, and then I've actually got an Igbo cousin the other day, and I saw him the other day. I was like, "Oh my god, you look exactly like my Mental Hotel reconstruction." Like exact. I didn't know until after I saw him. I was like, "Yeah." So there was something in that. He looks exactly like one of my Igbo kind of like in-laws, I should say. We've seen Amenhotep III. We don't need to go there again. Okay, so this is Khafre.
Okay.
Based on this statue. Okay. So this is my reconstruction of Khafre based on this statue. And he has that same, to me, familial consistency that you saw with Menkauri's reconstruction.
Right.
And that's overlaid with the statue. And that's a half and half.
Yeah. There's no stretching needing, as I said, no reaching, man. I just keep saying it. I just compared the reconstructions I've seen from the the Eurocentrists and obviously the Arabs and stuff like that. And I look at this and it's like there's no leap needed to be made at all. Like the Egyptians were very precise with how they made their their plaster casts, their statues, their wall paintings, and then to make an accurate reconstruction of that, like it seems lifelike. So it's like there's no stretch needed here. Well done.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think it's good to obviously show the overlays, because sometimes people I'll post these reconstructions and then someone will inevitably make it, oh, it looks nothing like it, and I'll always be like, well, what part doesn't look like? Oh, you've made it look too Ghanaian. I'm like, okay. Okay, but what did I do to make it look Ghanaian? What is it that you don't like? Because it sounds to me like your argument is with the person who made this statue and gave it big, full African cheeks and subnasal polymorphism and thick, wide lips and a very round curve. Like, your argument isn't with me. Okay, you have to
Right.
take out with them. Like, I didn't make the statue. I'm not going to change my features, because I think even sometimes we get people who are in our space and they want me. They're desperate. Oh, make your reconstruction look more Cushitic. They were Cushitic people. Make it look more Cushitic. I'm like, no. I'm not going to change the features of the statue to appease your, to appease your foolishness, or to appease your biases,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say something about the comments quickly. Nate's Nan, thank you for ardently defending me, but I think you're barking up the wrong tree with Zayhoven. I think he was making a joke earlier, but he's good people, so he probably you might have missed the mark a little bit. Yeah, he's good people. Don't worry. It was easy to miss his sarcasm there. Sometimes people make like comments for what other people would say, and the sarcasm gets taken the wrong way. So be cool. Oh no, don't worry. Oh, there we go. I love that. They're at peace. Thank you for defending my honor. I appreciate you. So this is Caffrey and Menkaure based on their statues, and I'd say they look like siblings.
Oh yeah, they look similar. That's for sure.
There's a familial link there. So I was quite happy with my final Caffrey and how, I mean, you can see how similar their statues look. So it's only natural that their reconstructions look similar as well.
With your reconstructions, I know I'm glazing a little bit, but it just feels like, what's it called? It feels like, what's it called? Oh, God. No, man. It's like, bro, it looks like, I said it before, it looks like real, because usually when you talk about ancient Egypt, it almost feels distant. It feels like, you're talking about a civilization that was thousands of years ago, like way removed from us, but it looks real. It looks like this is an uncle and auntie you see like at a party or something. Like, they look like real human beings, Like I just admire the fact that they look lifelike. They look very lifelike. They look like there's no stretches being made. The features don't look like they're what's it called, disproportionate. They don't. The eyes look normal. The nose looks normal. The lips look normal. It looks like a real human being. It looks real. That's what I'm trying to say, basically.
No, I appreciate that, and it takes. I think it took me a long time to get there, to a place where I had to, you have to, it's weird. You have to kind of like convince yourself of what you're seeing almost, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Because we've spent such a long time staring at these artifacts and being told that there's something else, that it became impossible to kind of see them as humans. Like, wait a second, why am I not seeing these people that exist? And also I had to spend a long time educating myself about the different kinds of Africans. I think that's a really big thing that people miss. A lot of people, there's quite a few people in the black space who still turn around. I think they do it for attention, to be honest. A bunch of idiots. I'm not going to mention their name, but they still turn around and be like, the ancient Egyptians weren't black. Yeah, I'm not going to mention any of their names. But I also think a part of that argument comes from the fact that people don't know what black in Africa means.
Right.
Do you understand what I mean? They haven't been to Africa. They're not immersed with that kind of diversity. We spoke earlier about, this, meeting the Ugandan, RJ I think it was, meeting the Ugandan and being shocked that she was from Uganda and possessed that phenotype. You have to, if you're going to do work like this, immerse yourself in Africa. You have to immerse yourself with African phenotype. You have to really spend a lot of time and dedicating yourself to understanding the different types of way the African phenotype expresses itself. Otherwise, you'll come across a face that is perfectly plausible human being, like you mentioned, and you'll miss it. You'll be like, oh no one's got eyes that big. Oh, no one's got lips. That's what Europeans do. That's what the reason Europeans turn around and be like, the ancient Egyptian statues aren't realistic. It's because no one has lips and nose that big and round. Their tools weren't sharp enough. No one has eyes that big. It's like, no, you don't have eyes that big. By the way, Africans can have much bigger eyes than Europeans. Europeans don't have that kind of range. Where look at Caffrey's eyes, for instance, here, and Menkare's eyes. It is very rare you'll find a European with eyes that big. Where, yeah, you're saying it looks like uncle because you're used to seeing eyes that big because it's an African phenotype. This is part of what creates the disconnect between Eurocentrism and African phenotypes because they don't see eyes that big. They don't see noses that round. They don't see mouths that broad. And so to them, it all equates to an unrealistic face. So it's got to take us very much to present them with these images to say, no. You don't get to say that this is not a realistic statue anymore because guess what? We've arrived and they're real. Yeah, respect African phenotype, please. Yeah,
indeed.
We're near the end now, by the way. We made some good haste here.
Sure.
We're coming on to some of my favorites here, by the way. Oh yes, I didn't remember doing this. So this is me with my restored Caffrey enthroned with the correct nose, and same person.
Right.
Yeah, are we happy that Caffrey enthrones a good likeness of Caffrey?
Yep.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
Well, they tried to say, yeah, go on.
I just want just add when you're talking about the Eurocentric view and how they're like, oh, no one has big eyes or lips like that. The reason they say that is because in Europe they're phenotypically the same, and so and because they're phenotypically the same, they're not going to have that understanding of how diverse the continent is, and because their lens is from a monolithic phenotypically standpoint. Like here and there, you will see like slight differences, but it's mostly phenotypically the same. So that's why they're so shocked and so surprised, and that's where they come up with that true Negroid nonsense because of that standpoint.
Absolutely. They also have a hate boner for, West Africans. I believe that's historic.
Why they have that severe hatred for her.
Yeah, they got a real hate boner for West Africans. It's wild. They really do.
But why is that? Why is that? Do you know why?
This is a long, convoluted story which will include Moors and Bourbon lineage and nobles of Europe.
Makes sense.
So there's a long yeah. It's too much. So we're gonna go there. Yeah. So Surfactant, thank you very much for your $5 donation. It says compare these to Zahi's golems, and it's no contest. Yours look realistic, and his look like zombies or creatures from the Blue Lagoon. I think that's a compliment, to be honest with you. Zahi's ones. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your $5 donation, sir. Very much appreciated. All right, let's carry on. Boom. So it's Caffrey again. I think I made some slight amendments actually as I'm scrolling through. Very, very slight amendments. And then we're coming on to one of my favs. I did a revisit of good old Josa and his reconstruction. And this is one actually, when I done this one earlier, I had a lot of people who had a problem with it, and a lot of people thought it was great. But the nose, I was really proud of, because my process to get to this nose was obviously based on finding all of these side profile steles and understanding how a nose like that would present itself in front view. But one of the things I hadn't done was actually done him in side view, which I then went on to do recently. So I'll come on to that. Oh, so here's some overlays of Caffrey's face from the front. But anyway, we're not looking at that right now. We've done Caffrey. You've had your time, Caffrey. Move on. Oh, I thought I was moving into Zosa land there. Yeah, we are. So yeah, so this is some images of Zosa from side view, and you can see he has a consistently portrayed nose. Yeah, very consistent. And then that's his actual statue, which up until the nose is consistent, and then obviously the nose is missing because the nose is being completely chiseled off. So I kind of like approximated all of that together, and I was able to produce this side view and front view of my Xhosa reconstruction. So you can see it there, and you could do a comparison of his side views there. And they do overlay really well. This is another really cool view, giving you a side and a front view. Sorry, comments is making me laugh. There's another front view of Xhosa. I mean, he's, to me as well, Xhosa has got one of the most, like, I don't understand how anyone could look at his statue even without the nose and question his Africanity. It's like, come on, like no one looks like that who's not African. I don't get it one bit whatsoever. You know, I don't get it one bit. He is a look at this guy. Look at his features.
He's got that drop lip. A little drop lip. Oh, yeah.
Really strong features. So you can see it from there. Okay, you can see the nose, but the nose is, his nose was consistently portrayed, and it was very, very strong. Very, very strong nose. Okay. Noses like that don't normally survive in Kemet. So we're very fortunate to even have the stellates, to be totally honest with you.
King, would you say that dreads or locks rather were all the way back in ancient Egypt?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, Joseph's got them here. There's no denying. Yeah.
100%.
These ones, I've skipped over a bit. I spent a very long time recreating his crown and his dreads, because I believe he had these kind of like thin sister locks, they're called now. Right. I believe they're called. He had these very thin locks. They were cut more neatly than mine, but I couldn't figure out a way to make them look cut neatly. So this is the best I could do. But you can see they're really neatly cut here, but they protrude out of his crown. He's got this crown that kind of only goes halfway down. This Nemo's crown that only covers the front and only goes halfway. So I wanted to show what a representation of that would look like. So I was really pleased with what I produced here. It took me ages, but I think this is a very good representation of what his hair might have looked like.
Makes sense.
That's another view, just to get an idea of what he... And this is I done the one with the upright crown as well. This one I couldn't figure out. I figured out this is like something to, I don't know, I feel like this is something to do with his hair. Like maybe some kind of like, they did something to kind of like tie the hair upwards. Maybe something similar to what you see amongst the Mangbetu in the Congo. They have ways of kind of like doing upright styles with the hair. And I felt like this wasn't a depiction necessarily just of the crown of Lower Egypt Kemet, but rather a actual upright hairstyle using wires and stuff. But I couldn't figure out what it was, so I was just lazy and just put a crown on there. Sorry, let me get rid of that comment because it's hiding the reconstruction. So yeah, okay. There's another view, the side view. You can see I've tried to preserve that nose as much as... Oh, I'm going the wrong way. What am I doing? Okay, so that moves us back onto Amos Nefertari. I think this is my final Amos Nefertari. It's very, very subtle tweaks I've made to Amos Nefertari. Very subtle. But I'm really pleased with where she sits now. I feel like I've got all of the features right. And actually, one of the things that makes me very confident about that is every single bust of Amos Nefertari matches this reconstruction. So it makes me feel very confident that I've got the face right here.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter which bust you pull up or which statue you pull up, it looks like the reconstruction now. So I'm quite happy with that. Mentuhotep II. Again, this is almost I think this is my final version, my final form for him. So I'm quite happy with that one. This is like a darkened version. I made the eyes a bit bigger, I think, to match the statue. The face is a bit wider, and the nose just needed a bit more kind of like plump on the tip, which I kind of added. So it's just a little subtle changes I made to get it a bit closer. Oh, I think that one even had some more changes. You can see a bit of a face, a bit of a face change. I think I made the mouth a little bit narrower here. So this is the final one, which I think is quite close. I told you I'm a bit obsessed. You guys know what that's all about, so I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm not going to go into that. Hatshepsut. Have you guys seen my Hatshepsut reconstruction?
I haven't
Okay.
either.
There we go. So there's my Hatshepsut. This is a recent one. I was very pleased with. One that people have been begging me to do for ages, by the way. So it was nice to kind of finally get out of the door.
I like the smile. The smile on your reconstructions, brother, are always it makes the person come alive. Yeah, I like the smile.
Yeah, it wasn't something I always did. And I think people had to, that's why I really love this community, because people had to pull me up and be like, hey, dude, you make your reconstructions look too miserable. Try and capture the expression. The ancient Egyptians always had this thing where they smiled without smiling, if that makes sense. So they had and a lot of that was represented with the broadness of the mouth, where they kind of had this kind of like, it wasn't a smile, it wasn't a frown, it's a serious expression, but it was a pleasant expression. It's very distinctive thing that they used to do. And this is a younger Hatshepsut. Yeah. I worked, by the way, there's a lot of changes to my final Hatshepsut. So kind of worked towards here. This is the kind of older one based on the various busts. And then this is a younger one based on two of her busts, which have a kind of a slightly different phenotype, but I feel like she just had a slightly narrower features when she was younger. But I was actually really pleased with how this came out. And then I managed to do one with the crown, or I did ones with the crowns as well. So I managed to recreate the Nemes for her on the next one. And this is probably one of my favorites now of a young Hatshepsut. Once again, she's got it's part of the fact she has narrow features. You can tell she's kind of like probably Cushitic leaning, because she has that really strong jaw, zygomatic kind of like front projection we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, 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 very African features. So I think this is up there with one of my favorite set of reconstructions, the Hatshepsut lot. I still want to work on a true front view. That one needs a bit of work. You know what that's about.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And then finally, we have 3 reconstructions of my queens, which I put in a post. So this is Nefertiti, slightly adjusted as well. This is slightly adjusted, but I feel like this is almost exact match now. Mirror image. Queen T. This is a modified version of the bust. I kind of humanized it a little bit. Oh, and then we have this that someone pointed out to me. I can't remember when and where. Someone pointed out to me, the Moroccans have that Statue of Liberty. I mean, that's exactly the same thing being portrayed there. So someone needs to explain that.
I like
Someone
it.
needs to explain why Lady Liberty is just like a Mauritanian or more, I should say.
I like it.
Very, very interesting. And that is my 2024 recap done. There we go. We got there in the end.
Wow.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Thanks for joining me, guys. I did want to just get to the end of that folder, and we did get there. I like showing you the folder because it shows you the random way my brain has to work on multiple different things at the same time.
Make sure there's nothing crazy in that folder before you.
That ship sailed, man. That ship sailed. That ship sailed, man. I've already been caught out, man. All I need is one of my kids to come up and be like, pocket check me and call me out. Pocket check me live, and then that's it. Yes. So yeah, that brings us to the end, man. Thank you guys for joining me. No chest pictures.
So that's what it
allow
was.
me.
Okay,
Allow me.
okay. It was
Allow me, David. Wow. Wow. Thank you everyone for joining. That was a long stream, so if you did the full marathon with us, good on you. We managed to maintain an audience of just over 100 throughout, so that's pretty cool. I'm wrapping up now. Does anyone have any plans, anything they want to share for the next 2 weeks? Oh, I want to just reiterate the fact that I will be doing a live stream. My next guest will be a geneticist, and it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to get that scheduled. I think it's either going to fall on the 12th or the 13th, which is the Sunday or the Monday. I will let you know which day it is soon. But when that goes up, make sure you hit your notification bell and make sure you attend that, because that's going to be big business. Okay, when that goes up. Any plans for 2025 that anyone wants to share before we wrap up?
Wait, you want to go first, RJ?
You go first, brother. You go first.
Oh yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to be taking any selfies. Oh, sorry. Someone said in chat they're going to see a photo of King shirtless in a Pharaoh let me start. You know, obviously, big thanks to King and his stuff, because he's a big inspiration for some stuff I got going on. I have a series going on that I've been working on called 100 Proofs the Israelites Were Black. And obviously I've used in 2 of the videos I've done so far, I've used King's work, and King's stuff is amazing, bro. Like, honestly, he's kicking the door down on this Egypt stuff. So what's it called? Sorry, I don't want to say Egypt, Kemet stuff, right? So big love to him and stuff. So yeah, I'm just working on that right now, and that's it really. But I've got other stuff going on in the future, but yeah, as of right now, I'm just working on that. So yeah, that's my plans
Excellent.
for 2020. Yeah.
I'm going to try my best as well, just to have more stuff available for the community, because I know since I made my first set of t-shirts probably a year and a half ago or something, I haven't done anything to kind of like update things. And I know people want now, and I do believe that now some of my reconstructions are at the stage where I'd feel comfortable producing the artwork. So I've got a bit of work to do. It's going to take some time, but I'm going to try my best to get to that stage where I can make more stuff available for people to, put up and do that stuff. Yeah. What do you mean? What is my channel called?
Yeah, I was about to say you're in
the
the
King's
channel.
Monologue. The King's Monologue. You're on it. I'm not sure if that's what you meant. BJ Riggs, thank you very much for your $5 donation. And RJ, I rudely interrupted you. What are you doing for 2025?
It's okay, brother. It's all right for
Apart from
me.
getting check from your brother. Sorry.
It's okay. For me, all I'm doing is I'm gonna this year I'm gonna get my master's in African history. I'm gonna apply for other universities for that. I'm currently later this year, I'm gonna do like a mission. I'm gonna go on a mission and look into the African diaspora more, because the African diaspora is one of those topics that I've been so fascinated by, and I think it's because of people, and it's because of you, King, because you were talking about the Moors in Europe, and other people were talking about Black people in Asia and Oceania and the Americas, and that kind of sparked something where I'm like, I want to know more about the Black presence in each of these countries,
Excellent.
and because apart from the Americas, like Canada, US, and even like some parts of the Caribbean, but I'm gonna go more into Latin America and South America more because that's interesting. Yeah, but Europe and Asia seem to be the most fascinating for me. And then
Mm.
I'm currently looking to different religions and stuff from around the world, different holidays, but like Black History wise, yeah, I'm looking into the African diaspora because I think that topic seems to be a little bit like not talked about as much in the context of like African like history in Europe and things, because people think
Yeah.
that Black people in those regions are just recent, but they're not. So
I think that's excellent, man. And we just need, like I said, we need more scholars real time doing that. When you do start
Facts.
your research, then please do not hesitate to hit me up. Let's support each other. Let's reveal some of your research. If you produce research papers, make sure that I read them. I'll do my best to create something, that people can consume out of it. This is how we get it out. We have to have scholars in our own scholars in all of these areas. And I think
I got a question. Sorry. Are you, since you've been to the Vatican, are you going to go to Athens and visit the archaeological museum?
it didn't cross my mind. Now that you've said it, I probably will.
Nice.
Now that you said that, I probably will. I mean, literally, that's how I went to the Vatican. I was just like, oh, this place looks cool. And I went. So I don't need much of an excuse. So yeah, Greece, why not? Yeah. Let's do that.
I also wanted to say, shout out to you, Trillback and Kapruki. I was supposed to meet Kapruki today for a coffee, but he ditched me for some reason. But, yeah, I was actually supposed to meet him. Like, we were supposed to go and get some coffee, but he didn't get me back to me. But shout out you guys. Black UK researchers are doing the most right now, and it's amazing to see. So, like, shout out you guys, honestly.
Kapruki is amazing. He's a very big inspiration. I kind of helped him in getting started with his channel, but from his first documentary production, I was like, yeah, he's on a whole realm of his own. His research is excellent. I love his videos. Like, absolutely love his videos. I mean, like I said, these researchers just excite me.
For real.
We got RJ coming through. It's just amazing. The work that they do is brilliant, and this is what can't be stopped. This is what can't be stopped, and this is why whenever people come out, short rant, but you're used to spend off with me. Whenever people do come out with new content, new channels come out, be prepared, because you are gonna be hit, particularly when you first come out, with a lot of people just these Eurocentrists try anything to discourage you from making content.
Facts.
They'll spam your pages, you'll get bots, you'll get entire forums of, alt-rights who have got nothing better to do than to, on their forums, oh, there's a new channel, everyone, let's all go down there and spam it. And they do all this because they want you to stop where you started, because it terrifies them. They are literally terrified of the progress that we're making, and we just have to keep on doing it. We have to keep on making this progress, keep on making our content, keep on doing our own research, because if we don't do it, no one else will do it. It's like right now I'm working on a short, for instance, where I was looking at an artifact from ancient Egypt, from the pre-dynastic, from the Naqada period of and it's an image of a woman in a kind of like, she's got her hands in a like that kind of pose. And it's clearly a dance that's done in modern day Rwanda. Well, it's done throughout the Great Lakes region. It's called different things. I think it's called like Amabara and in amongst, I think the Rwandans and then the Ugandans call it, I can't remember. They've got different names for it, but it's a really beautiful dance. But then this artifact proves that they were doing this dance 5,500 years ago in the Great Lakes, like in ancient Egypt. And it's exactly the same dance. And it looks like they bend their arms into the shape of the Ankore cattle, the Ankore Watutsi cattle. They bend their arms into the exact form of that. And you won't see anywhere else people doing that motion or that movement. You can't find it anywhere across the world apart from right next door to ancient Egypt in the Great Lakes region. Now, the reason I mention that is because no single archaeologist has made that link.
Of course.
None of them. No single Egyptologist has made a link or even tried to attempt to make the link. They're just like, oh, it's a wonderful pose. It looks like, you know, she's done this to invoke the spirits of blah, blah, crap. All this nonsense that is makeup. The reality is it's a dance that's done in modern day Great Lakes region, a dance they've preserved for 5,500 years. But no one will make that link. That's why we have to do what we're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, we have to do what we're doing because every time we create these links, they can't break them. When we say, no, this is this, when we make that hair link, for instance, you know, the short twist, yeah, I don't think anyone was saying that 3 years ago. Now everyone's saying it. Yeah, because we've made the link and it becomes undeniable once you see it. You can't unsee it. Everyone sees it. And now when everyone's looking at the ancient Egyptian hairstyle, which they used to call a headpiece, everyone kind of knows, oh, that's twists. This is, right. You know, but until we as African researchers uncovered that and made that known, it was easy for everyone to ignore it. So sure. Yeah, that's all I'll say. It's a little bit of a rant, but the point being that we have to make these links because once we make them, they can't be unmade.
Yeah.
100%. I am going to do a short on it, by the way, Mr. David Johnson. I am going to do a short on it, and that was actually my aim, was to do a short. But then, as I started, I realized there was too much information to squeeze into a short, so I'll probably do a short, and that's kind of like short doc kind of thing. That's hopefully about 5 to 7 minutes long. I'll post both of them up hopefully soon. But that's it. Thank you, everyone in this stream. It's been fantastic. It's 12:30, so I appreciate you, Yara, is very real, for staying on so late. Saturday tomorrow, so I guess it's cool to do that. 3.5 hours is way too long for a stream. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend, and yeah, I'll see you all soon. RJ, thanks for joining again, and everyone who donated as well. Surfactant, BJ Riggs. I think I needed to thank Surfactant for also joining my joining my membership. Appreciate you for that. I'm trying to see if there's anyone else I missed out. I'm scrolling up.
Macy just donated.
Macy, thank you very much, Macy, for your support. Appreciate you so much. Where's your comment? There you go. Thanks. When you lie to a group of people about them, they will be watched very closely and go through great lengths to maintain the system based on lies and keep the system from collapsing. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. I think they'll struggle. This is the thing now. They will struggle now. It's like the modern Egyptians, for instance. Not in a rude way, but they, it's clutching at straws at this point. The only option is to destroy, to tamper and destroy more and more the ancient Egyptian artworks, because they know that's what they have to do to maintain the lie. So it's sad, but it's true. Yeah. All right, we'll leave it on that note. Thank you very much for your donations. Thank you for joining us, and peace.
Peace.